just chilling, doing our thing. Updating. Uh, redemptions will not be honored. Oh wow, recording. Enjoy.
Woo!
Oh man. Okay, so now we're
Okay.
like live.
Now we're
Like
live. Okay.
so yeah. So now people can see you for the 0 people that are here.
Hi, 0
Um,
people. Hi, people on the VOD someday.
yeah, right.
Mhm.
Oh yeah, that.
Marvelous take.
Oh man. Oh, okay. Oh, and now I know that Firebot is still not working. Oh, Bushi said, "Don't call me 0." Orte. My bad. Firebot didn't know you guys were here yet. Anyway, hi friends.
Hi,
Um,
friends.
so for those of you who have listened to an episode of the podcast, "Hype is my superpower," this is what
Which
Steve
really
looks
does
like.
have 0 listeners.
I say we have like ones of listeners.
We have,
Like I think like
I
regular
think, I
listeners.
think dozens plural would
Yeah.
be an overshoot.
Well, because like we have a lot of downloads
That's true.
for not having many, like not having much feedback. Like there are people
So
who
few
listen to
feedback.
us and don't say anything.
Fucking ghosts. I actually got. I got one. Somebody at my comic shop was like, "Hey, I listened to a couple episodes of your podcast." I was like, "Cool. Why? Thank you, thank you."
Yeah. Honestly, like, and like best case scenario at the end of the day, I really hope that someday we actually have like a section for like listener feedback and content and stuff.
Yes, absolutely. I would love that. Is one of the things that by not monetizing the podcast, we're not like, leave us a 5-star review on
Right.
blah
Yeah.
blah 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 blah. You know?
We don't have a Patreon dedicated to the pod.
Yeah.
Man. Basement Yard, the like one of the 3 podcasts that I follow on TikTok.
Mm-hmm.
They have, I think a few months ago they hit like 15,000 patrons.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like, "Oh my good golly."
Yeah. The that podcast that I sent you and Nips,
Oh,
the
uh-huh.
where the first 30
It's just
seconds
like
are the
2
editor
hours and 42
freaking out
minutes.
about a 2-hour 45-minute. They have like thousands and thousands and thousands of patrons. Like I think hundreds of thousands. It's crazy.
And
And
here's
they
the
are.
thing.
Here's the thing. They are the only podcast that is more like that I've ever listened to that's more of a disaster than ours, like more disorganized, tangent
Yeah,
filled,
but
long episode.
they have a posting
Boss said it.
schedule.
This is no, not. I mean, they fuck it up a lot.
Yeah, on the bright side, at least Hype is my superpower is only 3 people deep.
Right.
2.5, 2.5, 3.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to undercut.
Yeah,
Nips's-
everybody on Twitch say hi to Nips Nipuna, our editor, in the future when he is when he sees this and is destroyed by it.
Oh man, I'm so excited for this.
Me too.
There was something I was trying to do on the side while we were small talking, and I completely forget what it is. I got too engrossed in our conversation. That's fine.
My bad.
Whatever happens, happens. Levels seem fine. Da, 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 da.
Oh yeah.
Okay, I guess I'm
Start
gonna
off this
start.
Audacity.
Yeah, I'll start recording.
Cool. Good to go.
Recording in progress.
So I want to use my cold open today for some self validation.
It's less of a cold open when you refer to it as a cold open. Just
Listen,
FYI.
it's because usually it's something
Starting to get
super
lukewarm.
random or like, hey,
Yeah,
I've come to the realization about X, Y, or Z. But like
sure.
only like today, I developed less confidence in something that I've been saying for a really long time. And so I want to know if it's valid. So when I
This
watch,
could go really well or really
I know,
poorly.
I know. So when I watch a show or
Okay,
primarily like TV shows, like an anime or something,
sure.
and it makes me laugh out loud when I'm watching by myself. I
Mm-hmm.
feel like that is like
Achievement.
highlighting, yeah, like that's like extra funny, right?
Yeah, yeah.
That I'm not weird,
No, no, that you sit up and notice, you're like, oh, that, you know, this isn't just a social laugh. This was like, this
right?
moved me. This moved my body
I feel like
to
something
produce
if
a
something
response.
right, if I have
Yeah.
involuntarily created noise sitting by
It's
myself.
it's what LOL actually means. They're like, I laughed out loud to this. I would like
Right?
you to have the acknowledgement that this was funny enough. Yeah.
Okay.
Instead of just
So
lol,
I'm not
lol,
I'm not weird for
lol.
thinking this or feeling like
No.
this, right? Okay.
Last night
Cuz
it was last night I had it for Inside the NBA, the
uh
TNT broadcast. Charles Barkley,
oh,
Shaq.
uh-huh. Dude,
They are
those
so
Charles
funny.
Charles Barkley is one of my like favorite grumpy old men
Yeah, absolutely.
that I don't know because Wally is my actual favorite grumpy old man.
He's so old.
Oh man. Okay. I just like I've used that as a like one of the reasons why someone should watch an anime that I'm watching.
Sure, yeah.
But then when I was driving home from picking up lunch today, I was like, am, is that actual does that actually make it funny? Or am I just weird? Is that like were people saying, "Oh yeah, haha," out of just like awkward support, or is that like actually a thing?
I could see different people have different thresholds for this. You know, I
Yeah.
think some people don't have like a um difference, you
Mm.
know? They're just like they react to everything at the same level. It's like there's this type of guy who I've experienced particularly in New York who has to say every thought that they have out loud. They're just like giving you a constant running commentary of what's going on inside their head, and it's maddening.
Yeah. 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 The people who have just like zero brain to mouth filter.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. They're, it's tough to like hang out with those people. Sometimes you just want to just chill and like
Right.
let's just process a little bit.
Yeah, yeah.
Those are also the same people that talk during movies.
Mm-hmm.
And
Which
hard pass.
that's a
Hard
cardinal
pass.
sin in the
This
Will
is
Book.
why this is why when I well,
Now
this is
you're
one of the
remembering the Will
reasons
Book.
this is one of the reasons why I control the tickets when I'm going out in a group to a movie.
So when you organize a group outing, you're like, I'm gonna buy the tickets. I will
Yeah,
distribute them as I see
I will
fit. Yeah.
distribute them. Well, I mean, so I guess I'd say one of the three reasons. One,
Okay.
I try to seat people
Next to
that
you, who you can hit.
naturally. Okay, I was gonna say
Four
that one.
reasons.
Yeah, I mean that's also one of the reasons. That's the third reason. Fuck off. So
Hey, it's called
initially,
hype is my superpower for a reason. You get hyped. You can't control
initially,
your limbs.
okay, people don't listen. So okay, initially, the one of the primary reasons or things is like if I know two people or two couples don't know each other, they're probably
Yeah,
going to be on the opposite sides.
sure.
Like I try to seat people
Use it as a
with
Yeah,
like
diviner.
friendship referential,
sure,
like
sure, sure.
you know, proximity. And then I also try to balance who's who can sit next to me physically,
Who
and
will hold up?
who do I have like hype moments with. So like you and Carlos and
Hmm.
Wally are like my
Yeah,
primary next to me's.
yeah, yeah.
But also because you guys understand that if it's really hype, fists will fly. And that's partially because I can't exclaim because I'm trying not to create excess noise, and
Right.
the energy has to come out somehow, and so it's in
Yeah.
the form of just like and then third,
I
if you're
understand. Yeah.
someone if you're someone who doesn't know how to control their volume, or
Mm.
just talks, or just like we're both at a brand new IP and you ask me who somebody is, no, you're
Mhm.
5 seats down minimum.
I bought 2 extra seats just to give us some buffer. I'm leaving
Oh
them
man.
empty.
Yeah, anyway, just but also a lot of a
Mhm.
lot of wifey's right outside. So
Mhm.
remind me not to talk smack about her. But also um oh god, what was I about to say? Da-da-da-da. Oh, there's a depressing number of people in our like mutual friends groups that can't organize groups.
This is true. Yeah. Y- you really fill a service.
It's so bad. Oh, but yeah,
I
whatever.
count myself among I have been able to do it in the past. Um I'll tell you what really took it out of me was the pandemic. Just like being
Mm-hmm.
out of the practice of organizing, just like I was trying to get me and Rachel and one other couple, we were gonna go tubing on the
Oh,
Delaware
cool.
River. Yeah. Great time, snacks, beer, whatever. You're on the water for 6 hours and you're just hanging out. Um, so I this is like one of the first things that we're after the pandemic that we're planning with other people. And I just like, I couldn't do it. I couldn't just be like, hey, this is where we're going. This is the time. Meet us here. Do this. Like, I just didn't have the capacity for it anymore. It was terrifying.
Yeah.
That reminds me, I need to start inviting people to the Eurovision party.
Oh
Thank you.
god. Oh god. Yeah. That's coming up, huh? Is
Three
that
weeks.
June? Oh, it's May.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. That's wild.
Yeah.
It,
Shout out
it's
to
actually
Europe.
kind of funny. I do right. I do have people every once in a while pop in from Europe, and I don't small talk about Eurovision. I
Well, here's
should.
the thing. Here's the thing about Eurovision is if you're an American who watches Eurovision, I wouldn't even say I'm like into Eurovision the way that like some of my other friends who are into Eurovision are, where they're like watching all of the like feeder competitions and they listen to all the songs beforehand.
Mm,
I want to go in cold. I want to just have the maximum what the fuck moment for whatever
right.
this day is going to bring me, right?
Yeah, like me and
Um,
the MCU.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Um, but when you tell a European, a God's honest European that you watch Eurovision, you get one of two reactions. Either that's awesome, which is a minority, and then the rest is why?
Why?
Like I understand that this is this strange cultural artifact that we carry around, but you have no reason to hang this millstone around your neck. And I'm like, that's the point. It's so fucking weird.
Yeah. Yeah. I will say, to segue it into our pod, um,
Or what?
our pod, you introducing me to Eurovision makes it so I didn't have a dropped reference when Quicksilver was talking about how he and Wanda used to sneak into Eurovision as kids. So I was just like, I don't. before you, I'd be like, okay, I guess
Yeah.
it's a concert. But now I
Oh,
know the full
still
spectacle.
still a missed opportunity to have European version of the Vision in Marvel Comics, wearing his socks and sandals.
I need
Kieran
this to
Gillen,
not
get
happen.
on
Like
this. Yeah.
the
Okay, but
multiverse exists.
Kieran Gillen would write this incredibly. You know this to be true.
I do know this to be true.
Anyway, welcome everybody to Hype is My
Yeah, what are we
Superpower.
doing? What is this?
This is a podcast called Hype is My Superpower. Me, Steve Storman, best buddy, Will Freeland, opposite coasts, hang out, talk about the things that we're hyped on, comic books especially. And we have completed our death march for the most part through
Yeah,
Krakoa era X-Men to get current, so that you can read AXE, but you're not reading AXE this week, which
not
I
this
hope,
week.
because I didn't read it.
No,
Um,
no, no. We'll
we're gonna read
coordinate
it
that.
together. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So what did you read this week instead
Man,
in your in continuing quest to read every Marvel 616 trade or collected edition as it comes out?
I'm gonna preface this
Preface
with
away.
Marvel is at like a dual extreme right now for me. There are some titles that just are not hitting, and there are some that I'm like stoked on, but like I'm more
Sure.
nervous about.
That's kind of like standard though, right? I mean,
Usually, but in direct comparison to like the shotgun blast of Krakoa level stories,
true. Yeah.
this week felt so much worse than
Okay.
it could have
Fair.
been.
Fair.
But anyway, so I've got Marvel Knights Make the World Go Away.
Mm-hmm.
It is my definition of a one shot, as in the sense that it doesn't have a number on the side.
A miniseries, a single trade paperback.
Yes.
Yes.
Daredevil and Elektra, Volume 1,
Okay.
called The Red Fist Saga, which that's not. It's not something you should ever call something. Anyway, and then
Sounds sturdy. Yeah.
the second volume of Avengers Forever, which is dealing with multiversal Avengers. It's the side book for Jason Aaron to get ready for his Avengers ness.
Whatever he's doing out there. He's getting ready for AXE 2, I guess, huh?
Yeah, I think after this book, I've pinpointed where my complaint about Jason Aaron is.
Okay. Yeah.
Like
Excited to hear it.
I'm filling in more of my Jason Aaron theory about his approach to the comics.
Yeah. The unified theory of Jason Aaron.
And that's what I got. It's just those three.
Oh wow. I read so I'm continuing on for new listeners, hello. Or who have tuned in since we've been doing the Krakoa Death March. I set a real quixotic goal once upon a time. Not even goal, just sickness, to read every X-Men comic ever published, and including spin-offs, mini series, etc. And
One offs.
Yeah. Thank you. And so I'm in the year 2000, and I am reading. So this is the second sort of storyline for each of the three books that Warren Ellis took over. He took over Generation X, X-Man, and X-Force. And I guess at this point he's co-writing them. He isn't the full-on writer. He wrote the first arc on each, and they're all given the sort of subheader of Shockwave. So basically, there was a 6-month gap before he took over in all of the X-Men line. Just like, giving some off time to start up some stories from a fresh spot. And all of these are kind of filling in the gaps of what happened during that 6-month gap. How did they get to the new status quo that was introduced in the last story arc?
Okay.
If that's not complicated.
No. It's comics. They're not complicated. It's a standard.
Cool. All right.
All
So,
right.
you want to
Should
start
we
us
go
off?
into this? Yeah.
Do it.
All right. Okay. There's
Okay.
so the the cover of Marvel Knights
Yeah.
has Daredevil, Punisher, Black Panther, and Karnak.
Karnak's new because Marvel Knights is, kind of an ongoing uh line for them of just kind of
Yeah.
like your dark, your under.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of like semi side story.
Street level, but kind of also
Yeah.
supernatural.
Street level badass. Kind of
Yeah.
like a Justice League Dark, but like
Right.
not so magic focused. Anyway, yeah, it should be. Anyway, point is, Karnak
Yeah.
isn't in this.
He's not even.
I
in the
don't
book.
know why he's on the cover.
Wow. Okay.
And to top it off, he's not. That's not even. That's like the cover of issue like 5.
Huh.
5 or 6. Anyway, point is, so this is 6 issues. It starts with Matt Murdock not knowing who he is and being very confused and coming to at the grave of Karen Page.
Wow.
And he gets
Intense.
yeah, and he's like, who is Karen Page? Why do I have these? Why am I blind but I can see? Like he has zero memory of what's going on.
Full amnesia. Sure.
Yes. And then he gets greeted by an officer of the law,
Okay.
Detective Frank Castle. And he's like, so he calls him Daredevil, and he's like, who's Daredevil? He's like, you are. You don't remember. And he's just like, yeah, you can. I know you can hear my heartbeat, and you know I'm not lying. But someone messed with our memories, and I don't know what else to tell you. I've got this guy in the back of my squad car. He told me to come and find you. And the guy in the back of his squad car is Bruce Banner, who equally has no idea who he is.
This is 616 though. This is main continuity stories here. So far as we know at this point.
I mean, yes, it is. Okay, so
Okay,
oh man. We've had this conversation before about like the difference between alternate reality and altered reality. This is an altered reality situation.
Okay. Yeah.
And oh man, they use this.
The difference
trope.
is that at the end of it, when everything goes back to normal, the characters
in
can still say,
616.
"Oh man, remember when that happened?"
Right.
That was
Yeah. And Bruce Banner, his whole backstory is that he wakes up randomly, not remembering anything, and finding pieces of paper with scribbled notes from childlike notes of saying different people's names, and so he's been going around trying to find people. And that is a that's a twofold reference. One, in Immortal Hulk, when the Hulk came out at night, he would leave notes for Bruce in the day.
okay.
And so that's the thing that they're pulling from. And then also referenced in a side issue of Immortal Hulk again.
Wow.
When Spider-Man wiped everybody's knowledge of the last time Spider-Man wiped everyone's knowledge of Peter Parker as Spider-Man.
Yeah.
He went to go he was hanging out with Hulk, and Hulk calls him Peter. And he's like, "Wait, what?" And he's like,
Well, time to wipe some memories again.
right. And Hulk is like, "You."
Didn't take.
Hulk is like, "You made Banner forget, but Hulk remembers,"
Mm,
cementing the fact that they're
right.
two very different people. But so this is a potential problem.
Yeah.
Anytime you try to do like some sort of mass mind wipe, because this is the second time now that Hulk remembers everything. Kind of like, oh, you haven't read it yet. You're not going to read it for a long time. Never mind. Anyway,
Okay.
Glob Herman
Immortal Hulk.
is no Glob Herman
Oh.
is immune to psychic suggestion,
Oh. Cool.
and like so there was a altered reality where everyone was getting mind wiped every day.
Oh, is this Age of X-Men?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
With
It'll
the
be a while.
exception of Glob, and yeah, that's gonna be a minute. And also, we haven't seen Glob
Since the New
in
Mutants.
Krakoa. Yeah,
Yeah, we did.
he
He
had
was
like
in the
a
early issues of New Mutants. He
yeah,
when he
he was
got
in the
really
first like
angry and he like
oh, that's right. He got
yeah
actual like mad. That's right. I totally
yeah
forgot. All right, thank you.
yeah.
So anyway, so what's that? So Bruce has a list of names that they're gonna go and try and check on. None of which are Forge because he's got. Sorry,
You're just getting there.
he has first and last names except for Logan doesn't have a last name, and then
Yep.
which just immediately makes me think of the Forge. So they want to go and find they've already his first name was Frank Castle, and then it was Logan, Steve Rogers, Matt Murdock, Elektra, Nachios, Tony Stark, Jessica Jones, and Luke Cage.
Sure.
And they are being tracked by a guy with also no memory, and he has a bullseye etched on his forehead.
Huh. Who could that have been?
Yeah, right. And then Daredevil starts to get his memories back because he's wearing his Daredevil suit under his business suit. And like so like Frank they had like a tussle and Frank like ripped open his shirt and it's like remember and then he like sees his suit and his memories start flashing flooding back.
That's a
For
bad way
Frank,
for. See,
yeah, yeah, I know. For Frank, his memories came back when Bruce showed him a picture of a skull, of his like skull insignia.
it's
Anyway,
ridiculous. Okay.
I agree. But then, so like, his memories come flooding back, and he's running around the street. He walks by the Fantastic Four, and they're all like in their like. Ben is big and rocky, and everyone's just kind of chilling. They're like, that's weird, and it showed a reflection of them in a mirror or in a window, and Ben looks like human Ben.
Hmm.
It's like
Okay.
he's got like it's like Rocky Ben looking at it as reflection,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it's just regular Ben. And so like as we're seeing more and more named heroes have had their mind wiped for some reason, and then Matt is like losing his mind trying to find his bearings, and he is visited by Karen Page. So that's random.
Yeah.
Turns out Bullseye's working
Who's
for
supposed to be
Kingpin.
dead?
Upstate
Right.
Right.
update.
Turns out Daredevil or Bullseye is working for Kingpin, and Kingpin is scared of and working for Doctor Doom.
Okay.
Out of operating out of the Baxter Building. Also,
What the hell?
yeah, I know. Also, Crossbones and Taskmaster are here, but they don't have any lines throughout all 6 issues. So
They're just there to wear masks
just
and be next to
bolstering the
Dr. Doom.
roster.
Yeah. Yeah. Just be like. "Mm."
The second issue, they track down Elektra, and she refuses to help because she's Elektra. I don't know. We get a glance at all of the names that Hulk has written down.
Okay.
And he's basically just like writing everyone he can think of. So like
Yeah.
Shanna O'Hara is she's Kazar's wife down in
Shauna the She Devil. Yeah.
yeah, down in the Savage Land. There's just a drawing of Steve Rogers'
Shield.
Sure.
There's Rakagar Boltagon. There's Danny Rand, Underwater City, Killmonger, Hellstrom, Warren Worthington. There's a Spider-Man insignia, and yeah, and so like Bruce is just thoroughly confused because he doesn't understand what's going on. Was his face Punisher before this interrogation? Because that's like a flashback interrogation thing.
Sure.
The Punisher has been feeling like this isn't right. I'm not. I
Sure.
shouldn't be doing this. Why do I feel like he's got this like girlfriend, this longtime girlfriend that he lives with, and he's like, why do I feel like I'm betraying something by being happy and yada yada yada. It's like okay.
Sure. Okay.
They go to try to get Elektra. Elektra fights back, and then Daredevil, and then Matt shows up in his Daredevil costume, and he's like, "Guys, we gotta. We're supposed to like work together." And Elektra's like, "Wait, like the four of us?" Talking about Daredevil. So it's Daredevil, Punisher, and Elektra standing there, and she's like, "The four of us." And he's like, "What do you mean? What about her?" And it points to Karen Page, and they're like, "Wait, you can see her too?"
Huh.
Because he thought she was like a ghost or an angel or something. Because then Hulk busts out of the squad car and punches at Karen Page and punches right through her. Like, there's
Okay.
throughout all,
Interesting.
there's zero explanation of what Karen Page is
Sure.
at all.
Okay.
But anyway, point is, they've all established that somebody has altered everyone's memories. And they got to figure out what it is. They got to figure out like,
Sure.
and they've got an inkling that it's a machine. Okay.
Oh, okay. That's a that's a solid lead.
I know, right? And so because of that machine, they go to find, because it's a machine. They go to find Tony Stark, who is an inmate at Rikers.
Oh.
He's the best-selling author of 946 pages of toilet paper called "Extremist: Tools for Nano Managing Your Life." Currently serving a 252-year sentence for embezzlement, insider trading, and conspiracy.
Okay. So they turned Tony Stark into an MLM guy, basically.
Yeah, yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and so that doesn't go well. And then Frank Castle's partner on the squad, they're chasing down some vagrant homeless person, is Donald Blake, who is the human name for Thor.
Right.
They're chasing down Loki, and Loki remembers, and Loki's text is the Asgardian text.
Oh, like his lettering and his speech bubbles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm trying to make this guy remember, and he's like, nah, I don't believe you at all. And then he disappears. It's a bunch of random hullabaloo, and then they want to
Okay.
go and find Wanda, Wanda Scarlet Witch.
Okay.
And she is this really like creepy gypsy soothsayer fortune teller cult leader lady in this like random cabin.
That's a slur. We that's a slur.
Gypsy's a slur. Yeah.
Yeah. Roma.
My bad. A wandering people tribe member. But like she's just like she's out in the boonies, like on this in this random cabin, and Billy and Tommy are there in uniform with her, and everyone in the village like worships her, and she sees the truth behind Frank and all, and then he's like, "Oh, you have a troubled spirit," and this, that, and the other, and then they're like, "Okay, let's find this last name. I hope I can pronounce it right. It's T'Challa."
Okay.
Because apparently he's in New York. Anyway, so the fourth issue starts with a flashback intro to the machine that Bob Reynolds, the Sentry, used to make the world forget about him and the Void.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, throwback.
Yeah.
Um,
Been a minute, Bob
cause
Reynolds.
basically, um, uh, Reed made it back in the day,
Sure.
for Bob. And there's this conversation between Reed and T'Challa. He's just like, this machine rewrote history. In essence, erased the Sentry and the Void from existence. If it can do what you say, Reed, why have you not destroyed it? He says, there's a reason the machine was created, T'Challa. It saved us, all of us, from annihilation. We may need it again someday. Until then, it must be kept out of the wrong hands. I called you here because there's only one place I can think of that is secure enough to store something so vulnerable and dangerous. Only one people who can keep it safe. And it's like, okay, well, that didn't work.
The Inhumans.
So then we get other names that are around. Steve Rogers is an old man for some reason in this altered reality,
Okay.
and he's wheelchair ridden and wheelchair bound, and Sam Wilson is taking him around places and taking care of him.
Yeah.
T'Challa is going around fighting fighting cops because they were racially profiling a young black man on the subway.
Fuck yeah.
So and then he gets tased by one of the cops, and that starts to jog his memory, and he's getting flashbacks. And then while he's passed out, the spirits of past Black Panthers reach out to him, and they're like, "Hey, you are, what the hell are you doing? You've forgotten your purpose."
There's a thing going on here. So here's kind of what I'm thinking here is this all, so if this is an altered reality, there's a certain point at which Marvel universe kind of falls apart without these characters. I mean, like, structurally. Like, if none of these people like are who they are, then like you have to dig deep to remove Tony Stark from
Yeah.
the history of the Marvel universe. You have to really like get in there, you know? And
Yeah,
so
some like arguably, if you write out someone like Daredevil or Punisher, fine.
right.
But if you're writing out the King of Wakanda, if you're writing
Yeah,
out,
exactly. If you were writing
like-
out like it's so yeah, so this is what made me think of it. Like, you know, are you writing out the entire nation of Wakanda? Does nobody, you know, like what's the, you know, not that I need everything to have an explanation. It's just like when you take on a logistical problem like this, you bring some a
yeah,
certain amount of questions like this on yourself.
I agree.
Yeah.
It's not, whoever did it was not thinking entirely.
Didn't care. That's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Not
you
every
know,
story has to be that. I'm just it does raise these questions.
absolutely. And so the uh, fifth issue is the assault on the Baxter Building. You find out that T'Challa is working on his own to infiltrate the Baxter Building. At the same time, Daredevil, Elektra, Punisher, and Ghost of Karen Page and Hulk are also infiltrating, are assaulting. T'Challa comes across the room of the bad guys sitting around playing poker at a table. Bad guys being Tombstone, Jigsaw, Taskmaster, and Crossbones.
Wow, okay. Really filling it out.
Between the four of them, they have a total of 5 speech bubbles. And they all they would, well, okay, T'Challa had the upper hand, and then Tombstone lifted him up, and he was about to like Bane Batman backbreak him. That's a lot
Yeah,
of B's. Alliteration is awesome. And then that's when Hulk busts through the wall, and they're they're doing that team up, and they beat all the bad guys off screen because they switch over to
Sure.
Doom and Kingpin. And Doom is like, well, time to run, and Kingpin's like, you don't run, you're supposed to be a good leader, you're not supposed to run. And he's like, this isn't a retreat, this is a tactical removal from the field, or some synonym
This
for
is
retreat.
this is a good difference between Kingpin and Doom.
Yeah.
Kingpin knows when he's beat, but he's invested himself too far, and so he can actually get got. Doom never gets got because even he when he knows he's beat, he's like, all right, I got something else I could be doing here.
Yeah. And I feel like
Doom will
Doom and
never
Kingpin.
overextend himself.
No, right. You can't, it's weird to say that Doom is humble, but like Doom is realistic, I guess.
It's almost like his pride is so great that he doesn't even consider it a failure. He's like, I've got a better plan than this. This
Right.
was worth a shot. Yeah.
Yeah. So to that exact point, but when they get to the roof, Kingpin says, I still don't understand. If they're coming for the machine because they remember, why don't you just turn it on again and make them forget? Because duh.
Yeah.
And Doom says, Doom does not need to explain himself to a man as lacking in vision as yourself.
Yeah.
And Kingpin snaps and hits him in the back, and then it's like, how long did you think I would let you insult me, Victor? How long do you think this would go unanswered? And Doom's basically like,
More or less this long.
yeah, he's like, I insult you by simply pointing out you are a man of no inherent worth. Your very existence is an insult. The self-proclaimed kingpin of a small section of this vile city, Doom is a king. It's like, damn.
Yeah, dude.
But anyway, he's doing blasts at him, and Kingpin, being the walking tank that he is, just takes it and keeps on advancing towards him.
Nice.
Grasping his hand so he can't shoot anymore, has a whole monologue, holds him by his throat out over the Baxter building, and lets go.
Damn.
Yeah, and then it turns out that was a Doom bot anyway.
Of course, yeah.
Because Doom.
Doom does
and
not
then-
get overexposed.
Seriously. And then everyone starts fighting each other because T'Challa remembers that Elektra is a bad girl, and Punisher is. He remembers Punisher as being the reason why they forgot, and so.
Oh.
So he's mad at Punisher. So they have their little superhero mini civil war until the end of the 5th issue. And then we go into the last issue where everything is coming together. You find out that it was a Doom bot. The heroes decide to team up. Karen Page, the ghost of Karen Page, is like, okay, guys, let's do this. Let's get through the door, because oh gosh, there's the machine is guarded by a golden dragon. So get ready to fight the golden dragon. And I've been spending this entire time trying to figure out metaphorically who's the golden dragon for this to like.
It's a
be.
literal ass golden dragon.
It's Sentry.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and so Sentry shows up and he's just like, guys, stop. Well, first he says hi, and they're like, you're Robert Reynolds, the Sentry. I remember you. And he's like, okay, that's close enough. I was sworn on oath to protect this machine. I do not age, I do not sleep, I do not require food or water or air. I am, simply put, the most powerful being in existence, and I will keep my oath until the sun explodes in the sky. He's like, why? Who have you sworn on oath to? We don't understand.
Because he has the power of 1,000 exploding suns.
Right? And he says, this part then. Okay, let me show you. And he clicks a button on the machine, and it shows a recording of a devastated New York, and a Matt Murdock walking up and saying, "This is the world to come. I know this must be confusing, but you're going to have to trust me on this, Matthew. I'm asking you to have some faith." We received a vision of the future. This vision. This is the world we create. This is the legacy we leave behind unless we turn it all off. You see, Matt, what you all do not understand, what you have never understood, is that we didn't just turn off the good. We turned off the bad too. We beget them, the bad. Our presence as miracles and marvels, we create our own shadows. We escalate, we wage wars, we die, we come back, event after event after event. Enough. It has to end. Not for us, but for them. And
And
so,
then Marvel stopped publishing comics forever.
so that's the argument. And then
Yeah.
and they're like, nah, that's we'll just stop it from happening. And Bob
Right.
reveals, he's like, guys, this is the 7th time we've had this conversation. And you're like, oh gods. And then Punisher's like, all right, well, and then he shoots Bruce, which turns him into the Hulk, and then Hulk
Okay.
fights Sentry and removes him from the room, which gives them
Okay.
a chance to click the machine and undo everything. And then we come back to a world of marvels, and there's a small conversation between Elektra and Daredevil at the end. Elektra went and checked in with everyone else, said Frank is in denial, Bruce is in hiding, T'Challa's in Wakanda, so who knows? For better or worse, all is as it was. But and this is the vision, the future, the world to come. I know it haunts me too. So what do we do? How do we keep doing this, knowing what's coming? These people look up to us. How do we pretend to be this thing they think we are? I don't understand why Elektra's the one asking these things. We do. Matt says we do our best, like we always do. Every minute of every single day, we keep our eyes open. Now more than ever, we look up to that. We look up to them, and we try like hell to be worthy of this world for as long as it lasts. The end, and it's just there you go.
Okay.
It's
like, hey, look at that. Marvel makes comics.
the point it's funny because the future that they showed had like pieces of every building missing, and that's it. Like it's not even like an actual wasteland.
Right. But like
compared to the other invasions that they've had.
The way that they do dystopias in Marvel is so funny. Like that's almost better. Like the pieces of every single building missing is such a trope. It's so funny.
Yeah.
And you compare that to like, I don't know. I'm thinking, I think it's in like, I forget. I read one recently in the 90s/2000s Marvel or X-Men, where it's just like every single building in New York is perpetually on fire. And it's just like, oh yeah, that thing that happened, 5 years ago or whatever. Everything's still on fire.
No one turned gas off to the buildings, so we're just literally burning through money right now. Yeah, it's just I don't know what the point of that story was, and I don't know why Karnak was on the cover.
The greatest mystery of all.
The closest to Karnak we got was a reference to Blackguard Boltagon on a scribbled piece of paper.
When you said the one, people who could keep this machine, safe or whatever, I assumed Inhumans.
Oh, that would have been nice. That would have been a good segue. But yeah,
it just sounds like I mean, I don't know why it was a Marvel Knights story. It sounds like a just kind of like a generic superhero story. It's, what this sounds like? This sounds like they got a new creator or somebody who usually doesn't work in comics or in superhero comics to write a story, and they're like, ooh, I'm gonna write about why I love superheroes.
That's a good thought. Oh, well, it's written by Donny Cates, so
okay. He writes
there
a
goes
lot
that theory.
of comics. Yep.
Yeah, is what it is.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, so
Marvel Knights,
it's a thing. Next up is Daredevil and Elektra,
Yeah.
the Red Fist saga. So this is
It's just
written.
you chose the wrong day, man. Wait a week.
I know. Um, so this is written by Zdarsky. So this is him taking up
Okay.
his own sequel, basically.
Yeah, because just Darsky has been writing Daredevil
Yeah.
and the Elektra series also.
Yeah.
Or the Daredevil Woman Without Fear series, which is
Right.
Elektra.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so all of those circles closing in order to because Elektra came across an ancient script that describes the fist, which is supposed to be what takes out the hand.
Right.
And that is from the very beginning, Elektra and Daredevil's thing is
Right.
being
Taking
somehow
out the
related
hand.
to the hand.
Right.
And so in order to do the fist according to the rituals, there has to be a king and queen of the fist.
This is just no, keep going. I'm just gonna laugh at all the inappropriate times.
Yeah.
The jokes
So
just write themselves.
yeah.
Zdarsky he's a humor writer. I mean, no, this is just another issue of Sex Criminals, right?
Basically, right? So, well, okay, so so all of that's all the preface.
Yeah.
It starts with do you remember the one side character that I thought was nothing that got it that it
Probably
was
not. No
I
offense.
know. No, this guy Goldie, he went to law school with Matt
Oh,
and
Goldie. No, I'm fucking with you.
yeah. No, he went to, so he went to law school with Matt and Foggy, and he
Yeah.
knows Elektra. Um, uh, uh, I would give you his real name in quite a second. Um,
So it's Goldagar Goltagon.
but yeah, so uh, Goldie just he it turns out there's more to him than meets the eye because no character introduced in Daredevil that's not a love interest can be
Right.
just a regular story. So
No.
um it starts with this like series of events that he drops a marble when walking down the street, which makes a guy uh trip and um let his newspaper go flying, which throws off a guy who's driving and he ends up crashing into a bike rider, but it also saves this little girl that ran out into the street when she let go of her mom's hand.
So he's butterfly effect man.
He is Mr. Butterfly Effect.
Okay.
And throughout the book, throughout these 5 issues, for his like subplot, it's basically him understanding and that he affects outcomes, and it's all been a voice that's telling him what to do, and the voice gets louder whenever Matt Murdock is involved.
Huh.
And
Okay.
and so this has been a thing that he's heard through his entire life. And then when he got to law school, he saw Matt, and he actually saw like golden wings and golden horns
Wow.
coming out of Matt. And so he's been just obsessed with Matt. And he goes and openly admits that he has been putting things in motion throughout his entire life to make Matt the best superhero possible.
Huh.
He calls himself his guardian angel for Matt.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's a bunch
A
of
little stalkerish.
yeah, it's a bunch of small things like he bumps into a guy who was behind him in a coffee line, and he took his time to order his coffee to make the guy irritated, and then bumped into him as he left, which made him even more agitated. And so which made him cross paths with this old man at just the right pace that it made him spill his coffee, and he got super mad and started yelling at him. And the old man, who was already on edge because he had a gun and he was going to go kill his boss, decides to
Okay.
kill this guy instead and shoots him,
Okay.
which the shot rings out so that Daredevil
My
hears,
God.
and Daredevil goes in and deals with that instead of making it to say goodbye to his girlfriend who was leaving on the train.
Sure.
And Goldie
Okay.
says that like that loss is going to help you become a stronger, more dedicated superhero. Stuff like that. To the point where the guy that made the bomb, he talked about how a week ago he nudged this guy that ended up going to the library and looking and impulsively looking up how to make a bomb, and then he made a bomb and it's on that train. Like these
Okay.
little
Sure.
things that
Yeah. So
don't
he's not even like helping with the mission so much as increasing Daredevil's like profile and
right.
notoriety. Yeah. He's not making the world a better, a safer place. He's just trying to like he's just being a fanboy.
Right. He's like it's odd. But
Sure.
yeah, he's basically talking about all these different things that he's put into place, whether it's immediate or long term, that will help Matt become greater, the best superhero,
Sure.
to the
Okay.
point where all the way back when in college, when he was first figuring out if he's going to be Daredevil, Elektra and her dad were kidnapped by some terrorists or whatever.
Yeah.
But Elektra, this was all put together by Elektra because she was scouting Matt to join the Hand at the time.
Okay.
And while the fight ensued, someone in the crowd, while SWAT was outside, someone in the crowd said they're killing the hostages because one of the guys got pushed out the window, and by one of the guys I mean one of the terrorist kidnapper guys.
Sure.
That says they're killing
Yeah.
the hostages, and then the dad had stood up and ends up getting shot by the police down on the ground,
Uh,
and that ended up, and that's what stopped the entire situation, and that got Elektra to lose focus on getting Matt to join the Hand, and her focus on her own personal revenge plot, and then but it also boosted Matt's focus on being better at what he does so people wouldn't die. And turns out
sure.
that the person that said they're killing the hostages is Goldie in the crowd.
Right.
So
Put
it's
that one
just
together.
yeah, so all those kinds of things. And then so the rest of these issues are Matt going around making the rounds and trying to well, okay, so with Spider-Man, he
Sure.
tells him he does a quick tour of Hell's Kitchen with Spider-Man to let the bad guys and the gangsters know that they are still being watched. And so Spider-Man is going to help keep an eye on Hell's Kitchen while he's away. But then everyone else he goes and talks to are people that he's trying to recruit to help to join his little like fist army, his
Sure.
farmy.
I'm just gonna keep with the jokes writing themselves and just keep my
Yeah,
distance.
yeah. So he recruits Detective Cole, who was introduced in Zdarsky's Daredevil run,
Okay.
who's like the transfer good cop trying to beat
TOGC.
out all the bad cops.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. TOGC, the one good cop.
Yes.
Yeah.
So he recruits him.
It's a trope, right?
Yeah.
It's a trope that I've named myself.
Okay. I mean, it's the Jim Gordon story, basically.
Right.
Yeah. So,
I always wanted to at a protest, like you get the one good cop who's like, hey, like we're on your side here. Just want to make sure that blah blah blah, and just be like TOGC. We finally met you, man. You're the one they make all the movies, the TV shows about.
yeah. So, he recruits the TOGC.
Yeah.
To join him, and then he goes to try to recruit Luke Cage, who was recently just voted as mayor of New York.
Yeah.
And Daredevil's like, come on, like you got the win. You made your statement. Kingpin's on the run. Like, let somebody else do it. Come and join me and do this like fist thing.
Wish Luke Cage was the mayor of New York.
I know, right?
If you're yeah.
And Cage is like, nah, like I have so much more I can do here. You kidding me? Like,
Yeah.
In fact, I'm on my way to
I'm at
go
work.
Yeah. He's like, in fact, I'm on my way to go meet some people right now. He's like, what? He's like, yeah, it's weird people. They're the Stormwinds. And Daredevil's like, oh no. No. Don't do it. They're terrible people. He's like, dude, it's fine. Like, I'm gonna go meet them. So Luke goes and meets the Stormwinds. You remember the Stormwinds, right?
It sounds Nazi.
The-
It just sounds like a Nazi-esque name.
No, they're not the Fenris. So they are.
Okay.
They're the super rich. I control everything. Brother and sister. That were
Okay.
stringing string Wilson along.
Okay.
And basically
Different-
controlling him.
Not the Nazi incest twins, the different incest twins.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're actually incestual.
No, they're
But
not. They
Fenris
just
definitely
don't. They
is.
don't
Okay.
like. They don't like physical contact with anyone. That's like kind of their thing. Is just the rest of the world is dirty. But yeah, so like they
Sounds like some
control-
Nazi shit, man.
Yeah.
The impurities, the cleanliness of the world.
They control anything and everything with their money and their influence. And so they brought Luke Cage in as the next mayor just to be like, introduce themselves and be like, listen, we control you and
We
you'll
run
do
this
what we
thing."
say.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Cage is like, no, that's not what's going to happen here. Really cool meeting, honestly.
Yeah.
They bring him into this like danger room hologram room.
Okay.
There's a big ass office table, and there's and the sister shows that there's like a force field between the two of them.
Okay.
Because the last time they met with someone was at the end of Zdarsky's Daredevil run when he met with Kingpin, and Kingpin laid his hand on the brother,
Right.
and like
Yeah. I remember this.
broke his arm, and then killed all of the like elite officers that they had, and then his son Butch was there.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, Butch, tell them that I died here, say that you did this, and like
Sure.
use that to solidify your position as the new Kingpin. So
Right.
His son is currently the new Kingpin of crime. Wilson's on the run in hiding, and the Stormwinds are just back to their rinse and repeat usual ways.
Yeah.
And so anyway, so the sister turns on a hologram. She's like, we want to show you what we own. And it's a picture, and they do a hologram of the Earth from the moon. Like, this is ours. You need to understand this. It's like we made the mistake with your predecessor of not stressing how powerful we really are. And Luke is like, is that why you built this where your old Fisk Tower used to be, flexing on the missing man? She's like, no, we're done with the past. We're concentrating on the present and the future by meeting the mayor who works for us presently. If a law doesn't suit us, we'll just change it. And if you get in our way, we'll... And it says, before you finish that sentence, I'm going to give you one chance. If the next words out of your mouth threaten me or my family, I don't care that I'm mayor. I will put you in the hospital. Best your money can buy. um, and then she says, "Good luck with that, Mr. Mayor." And that's when she shows the like force field or
Sure.
whatever. She's like, but we would never dream of threatening your beautiful daughter Danielle or your new son Joseph, as
Right.
revealed in Omega's Reign or Devil's Reign, Omega #1. We're not. And then he stops her by subtly punching and completely destroying the half of the table that's on his side of the force field.
Uh-huh.
And he says, "I'm not Fisk. I'm actual power, and I have friends with magic hammers. You'll
Dope.
find my proposal in what's left of your table. Talk soon." And he walks out. And the brother's like, "You'll never get to us. Do you hear me? We'll destroy you, and you'll never lay a finger on us. No one ever will again." Because yeah, he's traumatized. He's like still has bruises on his face from
Okay.
Fisk. And then Luke just like calmly walks out, thanks the assistant for the time, and pieces out. And it's
How you
like,
do it.
hell
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
hell yes. I'm so
It's how you
interested
take a
in
meat.
how,
I'm gonna have to remember this next time.
right?
You know.
Like, damn it, so cool. The last character cameo that matters to any degree is Akka visits Daredevil. Akka was introduced in Elektra Daredevil. She's the one that trained Elektra after Stick. She's the
Okay.
one from the hand that trained her.
Yeah.
And she still looks like a little child. So there's something weird, handy about her. And she, even with Matt's radar sense, he couldn't pick her up and figure out where she was, could not track her, except for the times that she let him.
Okay.
And she basically was just like, "I know what you're doing. It's not going to work."
That's
You
pretty
know,
cool.
like,
Yeah.
I am Akka. Hear me roar. Also, Akka is Japanese for red, so of course her name is Akka, and of course she's with the hand.
Oh yeah.
So there's that.
There's that.
Anyway, she has this whole monologue about like how the fist. What did she say? The fist fits into the hand, and to get there, you just need to suffer unbelievable loss. And she does the whole like ninja fucking thing. It's just like, okay,
Sure.
all right, you know, you guys do whatever you need to. And then so because of the insufferable loss, Matt freaks out and is like, "Okay, well, I guess I'm bringing Foggy with me." So all the while, Elektra's been scouting out a place to make their new base, and it's this place in it's an island or somewhere. It doesn't matter. It's in Russia.
Sure.
It's a contested zone in Russia, and
Okay.
they make their
Like Ukraine side contested zone or like Georgia side contested zone. Never
Yes.
mind. Yeah.
I could fucking tell you.
No.
Let's see.
Let's
No,
move
you
on.
asked.
Let's move on.
Sir.
No. God damn it.
Fucking. I said it didn't matter, but you wanted to know.
I was just trying to flex on my knowledge of geography. I'm just being a nerd. I don't actually care.
Well, it's an island with mountains,
Okay.
and It's uninhabited. Ownership's bounced back and forth between Japan and Russia over the past couple centuries,
Oh, okay.
with Russia holding claim since World War II. Highly contested, obviously.
Sure.
So there
Okay.
you go.
Thank you. There we go.
You're so welcome. So.
Mhm.
We have this base. Stick is there, and Matt's like, "Why?" And she's like, "We need him," and he's like, "Okay." So
I love how everybody hates Stick. They're just like,
I know.
"This-
So they
Does
bring.
he, do you think Stick smells bad? And like Matt's incredibly sensitive nose just like can't handle it.
That would be actually kind of funny. What I do now that we've established that Zdarsky's a like funny writer,
Yeah.
there's going to be a joke about a stick in the mud somewhere at some point. And you've brought this out of me. I hope you're proud of yourself.
No, you can't blame me for puns. You can blame me for everything else, but you cannot blame me for puns.
Fine. Anyway, there's going to be a stick in the mud joke at some point, and
Sure.
I'm not here for it.
That's fair.
Anyway, so he gets Foggy, he gets Cole. They go to their base, and then they do their ritual, which is which is Elektra and Daredevil going and fighting a bunch of demon ghosts of Hand Past. And as long as they kill them all, then the ceremony is complete, and they become king and queen, husband and wife of the fist.
Okay.
It's just an excuse to have a handful of pages of Daredevil and Elektra fighting a bunch of different armed ninja-like people
Sure.
in different sets of armor and stuff. And then after they completed that ritual, everyone who lives at the compound is gets powers, or like gets stronger. And so like including Foggy, who's now like jumping like 20 feet in the air and just having a grand time, and he's just like, this is so much fun. So people have been enhanced now. And then Akka also told Matt that the Hand have a new leader, and he's insane, and his name is Frank Castle. So this takes place before the cliffhanger ending of the first volume of Jason Aaron's Punisher.
Sure.
So this is, I think, leading up to that, though.
Right. Okay.
Because at the end of Punisher, Daredevil shows up, and he's like, Frank, what the hell are you doing?
Right.
So now we know how he found out.
Right.
Frank is doing this.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's a giant setup volume.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Okay. Avengers Forever. Volume 2. It's 6 issues plus Avengers Forever Infinity Comic 1 through 4, which amounts to 1 issue of a story about a Thor. Okay, so these 6 issues are more reality hopping, going around. This is so hard to talk about seriously. So,
yeah, you're struggling here.
I know. Okay, so Jason Aaron's approach to Avengers, right?
Yeah, let's go for you want to start with the unified theory of Jason Aaron here?
So the unified theory of Jason Aaron is that whenever he's given a title, he has to the antagonist that he puts together, or that he has the title character go up against, attacks the idea of the character.
The pure antithesis of the character.
Yeah.
And this is not a new approach,
Not entirely, no.
Like Batman and Joker, right? Like Batman stands for order, Joker stands for pure chaos.
Yeah,
or
so
like,
Jason Aaron's approach to Batman would be to introduce the Joker.
Just nonstop Jokers. And then you do like, something else to do like the antithesis of like, well, he attacks in the night, let's have daytime man, or like just like yeah,
right. So frame of reference, like when he did Thor, he did Gore the God Butcher, like
right.
The concept of the character attacking the concept of, do we even need gods? When he had Doctor Strange, it was the Empirical who are attacking the concept of getting rid of all of magic in reality. These are and then to go further back,
and
Wolverine the X-Men, the concept of X-Men being students and like
the school itself.
Yeah.
So it's not a bad approach to be like,
it's not a bad approach
this down to core
until you
concept
do Avengers.
Mm-hmm.
Because he has to do something new. Right. So
You
So
have to do the concept of protecting the world, which is, I mean, kind of like what the core concept of Avengers is the least interesting part of Avengers.
yeah. So like
Like, yeah,
it's it worked for a bit, but now that he's coming to the like zenith of his story, it's
uh-huh.
starting to fall apart. The
Okay.
first 6 or 7 volumes of Avengers were a lot of fun because it was the Avengers team going up against other perspectives of Avengers, like with Defenders
Right.
of the Deep, the Winter Guard, the Sword
Yeah.
Squadron Supreme. Like
Yeah.
it was different teams of Avengers with a different priority, and
Yep.
that worked and that was cool. But
Yeah.
now now he's like, okay, well now what's the big why? And so
Okay.
he has been spending this entire time doing the legacy powers and the Avengers, Avengers BC, 1 billion BC, and like making that be a thing.
Yeah.
Fine, whatever. Like it was fun. It wasn't amazing, but it was fun.
Sure.
And then so he's like, how do I go bigger with the Avengers? What if we did omniversal Avengers?
Right.
And so, in order to do that, he needs an omniversal Masters of Evil. And so
Right.
that's when he just spins 2 wheels and takes 2 characters and mashes them together. And that's how
Yeah.
you get the Green Goblin and Ghost Rider blended into one. That's how
Yeah.
you
You get
that's
the
how you
random
get-
character generator, which is just as
Yeah.
simpler. Yeah.
Killmonger and wearing the destroyer armor, Red Skull and the Null symbiote. Like it's
Yeah.
fine, whatever. But then
But it starts
because of
to erode the individuality of any of these
right,
characters on their own.
yeah. And so now that you have multiversal Masters of Evil, you are now he's introduced this no shadow character named Avenger Prime, putting together
Oh my god.
the multiversal Avengers. And so Avengers Forever, this title, has been that story of going around going around the different realities and recruiting different the people, the Avengers from those realities that need to be recruited, for lack of a better
Sure.
phrase.
Yeah.
And so and then first volume is also where we got a deeper dive into the antagonists, like the Doom of all dooms and all that other stuff.
Sure.
And in reading this, I have pinpointed the weakness of Aaron's approach, and
Okay.
a lot of it has to do with his writing. Like he has huge
Like,
ideas.
Just simply words on page writing.
The grammar that he ends up choosing and the dialogue that gets used does not carry the weight of the scale of the story he's trying to tell. And that's what I think the major disconnect is.
Interesting.
As a reference, so each issue is a recruitment story for one of the omniversal Avenger types, and they go into, and so like basically like the T'Challa story, the Thor story, the Captain America story, and the Carol Danvers story. The Thor story has a Thor that was that became unworthy of Mjolnir at the end. So this is on Earth 56337, and the
Earth
gods have
8675309 Omniversal Jenny
yes.
answers the call. Yeah.
The multiversal Masters of Evil have already destroyed this this reality. They've already come and done their killings and moved on.
Sure.
And ever since then, because so the multiversal Avengers, they've been going to the legacy powers in Million BC and killing the idea of the Avengers from
Sure.
the beginning of those Earths. And so
Which
since
is
then,
again, that's just silly
it is
because core concept of Avengers isn't something that like is difficult to come up with.
that, and Captain America didn't have a legacy power in 1 million BC, and yet somehow you decide that Steve Rogers is an Avengers core, even though he wasn't even a founding Avenger. So like,
1
there's
BC.
so
Yeah.
many things.
Yeah.
But point is, Thor becomes unworthy of Mjolnir, but it keeps on following him around. And there's a scene of him trying to lift Mjolnir. He's in the Himalayas,
Yeah.
and he just says, "The Thor of Earth 56337 strained to lift the enchanted hammer that was meant to be his, the hammer that should have carried him between realms, between glories unimaginable." And this is where it fails me. It says, "He strained and failed for perhaps the 5,000th time." Like, perhaps,
Yeah.
like, give, if you're going, if that this is a story, his story has been going on for
Sure.
millennia, as we see in the next page. But like, for you to say perhaps the 5,000th time, just like, do you care about the story at all?
Hmm.
Like, it when you say something like or about, it makes it makes
Yeah.
it casual and not like epic.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
you're trying to tell the most epic of Avengers stories by
Yeah.
joining all of the Avengers from all of the realities.
Right.
There should be some gravitas to what you're saying here.
Yeah.
And all of his dialogue is just so casual that like it's not portraying the weight that someone like a Hickman or even like a Neil Gaiman or someone like that has better dialogue could have
Yeah.
put here. And that, I think, is where it starts to really fall, because that's what people take away from his stories is how did it read.
Yeah.
Not a lot of people sit there and be like, well, what did it mean?
Right.
You know, and that's where Aaron shines, is the idea behind what he's telling and
Right.
not what he's actually telling.
Hmm.
And I think that's where it really falls apart here.
Hmm. Interesting.
So to the first issue, it's a T'Challa, and this T'Challa in this reality is Superman.
Huh. Okay.
When his planet was being destroyed by the multiversal masters of evil, his parents in Wakanda fit him in a vibranium rocket and sent him flying into the cosmos.
My God. He's started stapling together characters that aren't even Marvel characters.
Yeah. But then on top of and then as he grew older, he used the vibranium ship and turned it into a suit for himself.
Okay.
And he's been called he's been called the Sky Spider because he catches people in vibranium webs. It doesn't make sense.
So he's Spider-Man and Superman and
Uh-huh.
also Black Panther. It just like,
Uh-huh. Oh, I'm
come
with
on,
you.
dude. Come on.
But yeah. And so these are, oh, I guess I'm sorry. It's not the multiversal Masters of Evil. It's just King Killmonger in his
Sure.
destroyer armor that's going around doing this. Anyway, launches T'Challa into the fiery core of a planet, and his armor wraps around his body, and he survives. And then he starts trying to follow the path of destruction that Killmonger has left. He's upgraded. He's older. Still wearing the same vibranium suit, but he's stronger apparently. Goes to fight Killmonger in his destroyer armor. He loses and gets thrown into a star, and then 3 days later, All Rider, Robbie Reyes, Ghost Rider, Tony Stark, Ant Man, and Deathlock have
My
been
God.
going around and doing their recruitment drive for Avengers Forever, and they drive through into the sun to recruit him out, and he comes out. He comes out even stronger, and he's known as the Star Panther now.
Okay, so he's also Starbrand in addition to Superman, Spider-Man, and Black Panther.
Yeah. So yeah, he's the last Wakandan. So anyway, so less Starbrand, I think more just Superman.
Sure.
But yeah, he's Super Spider-Man. But he also doesn't. He has. I don't think he's got the webs anymore. So it's like just It's like it was Superman cosplaying as Spider-Man for a little bit until he realized his true
Sure.
potential. Yeah, it was amazing. And then so the second issue is the recruitment of Steve Rogers. And okay, so that's fine. Okay, this has a circular cell of 5 cells and different Steve Rogerses from different realities.
Realities. Yeah.
And once a day, this big door opens, and one guy has been charging in to try to get out. One of the Steves is a dog. He's been charging in to try to get out, and then,
Sorry, you just dropped that so casual.
yeah, I did.
I can't with this, man.
I
It's
know
just
it's hard. It's a hard sell, dude. It's a really
it
hard sell.
it's just such a like I'm okay with things being like tonally inconsistent or like the having some like levity in the middle of like epicness, but when the epicness is straining to the point of ridiculousness and then you add an element of like pure comedic ridiculousness on top of it, it just makes me think like, oh, so this whole thing's a joke.
Yeah. Well, for what it's worth, he doesn't. He doesn't talk like Cosmo or anything. He's just an actual dog.
He's just an
But
actual dog.
he comes from a
He
planet
comes from the
where
dogaverse.
yes,
Yeah.
because humans are in zoos in his planet, and he says how he's never been. One of the other Steves like has some sort of connection to him. I don't know, but they needed
Yeah.
some way to translate what he's saying without actually giving him a voice. But he tells one of the Steves that this is the closest he's been to bipedal creatures outside of a zoo, and it's like, okay, well,
All right.
cool. Whatever. I hope we don't go to your world. But anyway, that big door opens once a day and there's a treadmill.
I mean,
and
or we do when it's a comedy, and we're
Sure.
just okay with this being
Sure.
a comedy. But like,
Sure.
it doesn't seem like that's compatible with the rest of the story you're trying to tell,
Yeah.
Carrie.
One of the Steves is like I don't want to say a hippie Steve, but he has like a bandana and he's got the classic hippie look, the long ponytail.
Sure. Hippie.
On day 2, so day 1 he gets knocked back. On day 2 he screams his rally cry is death to the military industrial complex, and then gets
Okay.
knocked out, comes back.
I'm a fan of this. I'm
Yeah, I
a fan
thought
of
of
this,
you.
dude. Yeah.
And on day 3 he says, "My name is Steve Rogers and I'm a political prisoner because I refuse to take part in your illegal war. You fascists will not break me." And then he goes again.
Okay, I'm no longer a fan of this, Steve. Come on.
Through. By day 11, one of the nerdy Steve tries joining him, and they get knocked out. And then by day 14, the dog Steve goes with him. Day 17, no, day 20, Big Fat Steve joins in, and then
Excellent.
day 33, the last Steve joins, and he's a giant nuke Weapon X Steve.
He's got Wolverine claws and he's got a nuke tattoo. Is that correct?
Yeah. Um,
Seriously,
well,
it's
oh
just
wait.
like can no character just be cool on their own?
Now I want to see Rogers. So anyway, um, the whole point was to get them to inspire themselves to do and be more. And then they get to the room, and a shield gets thrown at each one. They each grab the shields, including the dog. Um, and and then it shows the five Steves that threw them at him, and they're like, good job getting through that. So you have a U.S. Agent Steve, you have an
Yeah,
American Knight Steve, you have Werewolf
yeah.
Steve, you have Cartoon Steve, and you have Gorilla Steve. And they're like, congratulations on getting through training. It only gets harder from here because there's a war to fight, and we need every Steve Rogers we can get. And so it's a bunch of all the Steves at the Avengers Forever compound. This is kind of the training that they go through to like inspire them to inspire others and be Captain America for the Avengers. I don't know.
Okay.
For
I feel
whatever,
like Steve Rogers of all people would be like, there's nothing special about you have to be Steve Rogers to do this.
yeah.
Like,
Um,
like I feel like Steve Rogers would not be recruiting other Steve Rogerses. He would be recruiting just anybody who is cool and wants to put up a fight.
yeah, I agree. Um, so they're like,
Like
so
leave the council of me to the egotists. You can have a council of Reeds, you can have a council of Dooms, you can have a council of Tony Starks, you know, council of Steve Rogers. That just doesn't fit.
I hear you.
Anyway,
So Deathlock says, I'm detecting Steve Rogers' energy on Earth 49978. Local records show he has never lifted his shield. Instead, he became a drifter who was actually caught in a gamma bomb explosion.
oh no.
Yeah, anyways, yeah, we have an army to build. And then the next issue is Thor's after the whole entry into introduction of like the hammer worthiness thing. He gets greeted by the Thunderer of Kunlun, and he brings him to Kunlun, and we see that Kunlun was also devastated by the Masters of Evil,
Of course, yeah. They're
and he
evil.
trained. Yeah,
They're pretty good at being evil.
so he trains him. So he offers to train him, because the one door that they didn't destroy is the door into where Xiao Lao lives.
Okay.
And so Thunder is like, I got you. And so Thor starts doing the kung fu, just continually punching the same thing consistently.
Right. Yeah.
And so he's just punching the floating Mjolnir that's been hanging out behind him the whole time.
Okay.
And then 30 days of punching Mjolnir, his hand stopped bleeding.
Uh-huh.
And then it started avoiding his attacks. It started like moving.
Huh.
And then another 30 days after that, Mjolnir started attacking back.
Okay.
And
So it's making him worthy of it by fighting him.
yeah. And then
Interesting.
it just gives you this opportunity to have this giant like look.
Uh-huh.
And then it falls to the ground, and the Thunderer is like, "You've beaten it, broken the hammer spirit, the wild stallion, now ready for a saddle. After all those times you trained and failed, now that it finally lies humbled at your feet, will you claim it? Will you lift your hammer?" And Thor says, "No." And Thunderer says,
Sure.
"Good." And then now Thunderer fights Thor, and he's like, I'm your final trial, Thunderer versus Thunder God." And Thor's like, "I told you not to call me that," and he punches him through from the mountaintop they're on directly into the door that was locking in Xiao Lao, and then comes to find out that Xiao Lao is also dead. And the Thunderer was just a spirit of the last Thunderer and the statue that was all there for whatever reason. But so he's not to become the Iron Fist, but he
Sure.
is now Thor, the god of fists. And if
Save it
if
for
he visits
Elektra.
Matt, if he
Yeah.
visits Matt in 616. Anyway, and then so he leaves Kunlun, and he's like, all right, it's time to go. And then Mjolnir follows behind him, and it crackles, and apparently they can talk now. And so Thor is like, yeah, you can come with me, just don't get in my way. And then that's where the All Rider rolls up, and Tony Stark, Ant-Man is just like, hey, you looking for a ride? I got you. And then the last one is, second to last one is Carol Danvers. And they go into this whole thing about Carol that she's always dreamed about flying. That's her thing.
Sure.
That's her characteristic, is she's meant to fly.
Yeah.
And you get introduced to the Carol of this Earth, that she's been chained to the ground. Oh, she has a ball and chain, and in this world, nothing is allowed to fly. It is a world of flash dance, but also
Oh my god, dude.
no, it's the Dark Phoenix has this world, and anything that flies, there's a whole bunch of aristocrats that like to go and shoot them for game.
Okay.
And then whatever they shoot, Carol is told to go and retrieve for them.
She's the hound dog, basically.
So flying is not allowed, and so every time a bird goes up, they get to shoot it down. Carol's been so she spends the entire issue trying to jump, like putting the giant ball and chain on her back and just jumps.
Okay.
And that's like her thing. She keeps on trying, it just never works. She rebels and yada yada yada. She on one of the hunt days, she finds a nest of little birds that she brings back with her. Somehow she brings them back to her little hole that she lives in. They start to fly when they're old enough, and she's like, "No, don't!" And she crawls out of her hole, and the guys are starting to shoot it, and so she defends them and starts attacking them, and then
Sure.
and then in one of the shots that one of the guys fired, it knocks off her shackles. She's like, wait a second. And then she tries flying again, and turns out that all of her jumping training has made her be able to like Hulk jump.
Okay.
And basically gets away immediately. And then and it feels like she's flying, and she's so happy, and then she's like, wait, I gotta take out these guys. So she comes back and messes them up, and burns down the whole like village that she comes from. And then she tries fly jumping again, and she jumps up past the clouds, and hits and lands on a giant helicarrier full of Carol Danverses, and they're like,
my
"Oh
God.
shit, you made it on your own. We were about to come get you." These carols, these omniversal carols, seem like the most varied of the characters of the Avengers that we end up getting. Like,
Really? Because you had a gorilla Steve and a werewolf Steve and a cartoon Steve.
Okay, I guess there's that. But like we've basically, it's like we've got like a flying gunslinger Carol. We have a Shatterstar Carol. We have like your typical army Carol. But then you also have this like
Cyborg Carol.
cyborg Nick Fury type Carol. There's a caveman Carol. Also varying ages, because this is an old Carol.
Sure.
But because so this is the Carol Corps. The last time we saw a Carol Corps was in Secret Wars side book in Battle Worlds.
Sure.
And because it's Jason Aaron, they're not on the helicarrier, and it can't be the all carrier because that's weird. But it's
This
the
is NorCal. They're on
Omnicarrier.
that. Oh God.
The hella carrier? No, I see where you're going. Shut up. Um, anyway, so that's been recruited, and um, the all writer, Robbie, is like, we there's one thing missing, and Ant-Man's confused. Tony Stark, Ant-Man's confused. Is like, what are you talking about? We've got the Star Panther, the strongest Black Panther who's ever lived. We got the angriest, punchiest Thor, the God of Fists. We have our Howling Commandos, our army, and all Steve Rogers' army. And we have the most badass Air Force the multiverse has ever seen in the form of the Carol Corps. What are you talking about? We're strapped.
Yeah.
They're like, no, we need the best Tony Stark. And so basically, they're going conceptually for the best versions of every character. At least
Right.
that's what they're like making it sound like. And so
Right.
like it's kind of interesting because Thor and T'Challa, there's only one character that's the best. But with
Right.
Cap
It's
and
the
Cap
whole.
for
Yeah.
Cap
Yeah.
America and Captain Marvel, it's the
Yeah.
like their strength is their numbers and like
Right.
what they can do or be. I don't know. It's one of those things where the Jason Aaron idea is there, but it just did not execute.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Okay. Do you think they're going to recruit anybody out of 616 to be part of the Omniversal Avengers? And if so, who would you choose? Who is their best self in 616?
Well, that's what completely negates the whole concordance engine thing from Defenders. But
Right.
it has been proven multiple times that Peter Parker 616 is
Oh, yeah.
the most natural leader, best Spider-Man.
Yeah.
But that's because he has his own Spider-Verse thing.
Yeah. Okay. That I think if you were to choose anybody from 616, it would definitely be.
Yeah.
You're right.
But also this is Robbie Reyes 616,
Oh,
the
okay.
all writer.
Right.
Because his feats have gone beyond what the other Ghost Riders have done. And it's more just
So all
like,
the other Ghost Riders just kind of suck.
well, it's like it has been argued that Johnny Blaze is the strongest Ghost Rider.
Sure.
But so the idea of what Robbie Reyes' Ghost Rider is he's the all rider. So anything he touches becomes his ride.
Yeah.
And so like that approach to the Spirit of Vengeance is different than what
Right.
Johnny Blaze has ever done. And so as
Right.
when it comes to overall power, I think Johnny is still the strongest
He's
one.
the best Ghost Rider because he rides the most things.
Right? So Robbie, like, so
It's tautological at this point.
yeah, in a scene in I think the first volume of Avengers Forever, he made the null symbiote his ride. So like
All this does is make the null symbiote less cool.
yeah. 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 But anyway, so the Tony, so conceptually, one of the things that I did like about the Tony Stark issue is there's like no like mentally stable Tony Stark out there. Like they all have
Okay.
lost either publicly to public demons or personal demons. The first
Interesting.
Tony Stark they're going after is like in the middle of Demon in a Bottle, and
Okay, yeah.
and he's trying to fly away, and Tony Stark Ant-Man is like, no, like you need to not be flying right now, and then he crashes and explodes.
Yeah.
And so they're like, well, damn, so we missed out on that one. So let's go to the next Earth. And then in the next one, it's kind of like an Old West / Mad Max Earth. And this Tony was burned at a stake for his inventions. Like,
Okay.
he was creating too
Yeah.
much stuff and people thought he was a witch, and so they burned him at a stake.
Okay.
And then the next one they go to was too big to fit on any planet. Um, he transferred transferred his mind into a robot body too big to fit on any planet, so he
Oh
just
my
drifts through
god.
space, guzzling gas giants like liters of gin. And so, like, it's
So
just
it's
it's
Tony Galactus, basically.
yeah, and he's literally just like he grabbed this planet, this like Saturn-like planet, and just
Yeah.
ate it because why not?
Yeah.
And so they're like, and he says, "Who gives a damn about the Earth?"
Uh-huh.
And there's this whole thing that you get this like inner monologue from the Tony Stark Ant-Man, and basically it's like this idea of flying so that you can basically he wants to stand on he wants to stand where no one can hate him or judge him. And
Okay.
so he wanted to fly above the clouds where there would be nobody to look down on him, kind of a thing. Like
Okay.
it was almost a really good character
Like
dive.
character study of Tony Stark. Yeah.
It just didn't entirely play out. Anyway, the next
Mm.
Tony that they go to is one that never left the cave.
Oh.
And he's obsessed with he can't leave until he makes the perfect armor, and so he keeps on
Interesting.
going through iteration after iteration after iteration, and the
Interesting.
guards of the cave have been dead for more than 10 years, and he's still just stuck in his cave,
Interesting.
being like, I can't leave until it's perfect, can't leave until it's perfect.
Yeah.
And he's just like obsessive there. Then the next one he meets an old man that ran a repair shop, and that inspired and he's just in such a good mood. And then he inspired Tony Stark Ant-Man to give up drinking. And then he does, and after that he goes and recruits a cave Iron Man, because he
Interesting.
knows that this is the best version.
Huh.
But oh, sorry, yeah. So they say in this like cut scene, basically, is we find at least 30 Tonys who use their suits of armor as robot bartenders, another 24 who flew into the sun, whether on purpose or by accident, who knows, around 50
Interesting.
in catatonic states, and more than I could even count who'd gone stark raving mad. God, did I just make a pun? Clearly, I'm the worst of the lot. But then again, there's also this guy, and it shows the cave guy. And he's like, yeah, what
Interesting.
about these suits you've already built? He's like, none of them were perfect. Has to be perfect or it won't work. Captors will kill me. I'll never see the future, the one in my dreams. I really want to see the future. Just have to build the perfect suit. Just have to make it perfect in every way. Can't try it until then. Can't risk it. Just wait until it's perfect. Tomorrow. Probably tomorrow. And yeah, so he goes and recruits him. And then
That doesn't sound like the best Tony.
it's not. It's yeah. But he's like, yeah. So he recruits him, and he has like a all Tony AA group on the Omni carrier.
Okay.
And he's like, "Hi everybody, I'm Ant Man. I'm a Tony Stark. Hi Tony. Hi Tony. Hi Tony. Do you want to thank everyone for coming? I brought a new friend along this time. This is his first day out of the cave. You want to say something, everybody? But believe me, okay." And they're all like, "Hi Tony, welcome." And Mr. Too Big to Fit on a Planet Tony is there.
It's just
So
chilling. Yeah.
that worked for them, but whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. The last issue is about Robbie Reyes losing his sense of self to the All Rider.
To all the things he can ride. He just I can
Basically,
ride too many things. I don't know who I am anymore.
he confronts the Doom above all dooms, and he was going to win by giving in completely to the All Rider and completely forgetting who Robbie Reyes is.
Okay.
But then Deathlock and Ant-Man get involved
Sure.
and stop him. And they're approach to dealing with Doom above all dooms is to hit him with some pim particles and shrink them down into nothingness. Um,
The doom below all dooms.
yeah. So in the middle of doing that, the rest of the Masters of Veal show up, and so they have to retreat. Deathlock fights them off while Tony, Ant Man, and Robbie Reyes get away in the Hell Charger, and little 1-inch Doom flies through Deathlock's head and takes him out.
Okay.
And
I feel like you wouldn't have to, like, you just have to shrink Doom by about 6 inches or so. Just give him an inferiority complex.
yeah, it would have been nice. And then that's the end, and it says to be to be continued in Avengers Assemble. So Avengers Forever, 2 volumes, is the recruitment drive for the Omniversal,
Okay.
the Ultimate Avengers. And then I guess, and then the next will be Avengers Assemble, and I don't know.
That seems kind of backwards. The recruitment should be called
Avengers
Assemble.
Forever.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, it's kind of all over the place.
Okay.
It wasn't amazing, but it is what it is.
Okay. I'm sorry. That's a bummer. You always want books to be good. You never want to. Never want to spend your time reading bad comics. Except I guess if you're me.
Because like I held on to the first Avengers Forever volume in case it ended up being a series that should go on the recommendation shelf.
Right.
It doesn't need to go on the recommendation shelf.
Yeah, because like a high-profile writer setting up, taking his time for a big long run on a high-profile book like Avengers, like there's a you want to keep yourself open to something good happening here.
Well, because his Avengers run is on my shelf.
Yeah.
And I was like, how connected is this going to be to where he's going with Avengers? And like, it might end up being connected, but it doesn't feel like it. And it's just, it's bothersome, but whatever. Next week, hopefully it'll be better.
Okay.
Anyway, so let's do your stuff.
Okay. So I've got like I said, I've got Generation X, I've got X-Man, I've got X-Force. So Generation X, where we last left them, they were kind of like, they were finally like getting out and doing missions. They weren't at the school anymore. And it was Jubilee, M, Husk, Chamber, and Skin. I think that was the whole team that was left. Something had happened to Sync, and they were all very sad about it. And they weren't at the school anymore. So now we get sort of the flashback. Emma Frost's sister, Adrienne, who was kind of the main villain for the tail end of the book before the 6-month jump, and they like finally beat her. But she's just kind of off at the London Hellfire Club, licking her wounds and hooking up with random men and putting them in comas, as one does.
Like a real succubus.
Yeah. So she decides to return to the school for revenge on Emma, and on threatens to out the kids and the school as being like a mutant, superhero training ground, which would not be a good thing for the world to find out about. Because they have human pupils at this time, human students. It's like, so it's a small minority of the student body are the Generation Xers. So Monet and Everett, so Sync's around, and Monet and Sync, after sharing their first kiss when she left the school, right before the 6-month gap, they're now a couple, and she's back at the school. And some human students at the school suspect that all the weird nerdy kids, but mostly just the Generation X members, are mutants. So they start with like bullying, the weird kids in school, and then when the Generation X kids stick up for them, like, "What, are you a mutant too?" And quickly escalates to just full on hate crimes, and they like set Jubilee's dorm room on fire.
Oh man.
She loses the only pictures she had of her parents, etc. Um, they go to, every time something comes up, they go to Sean and Emma, and their response is to just be like, "Listen, we can't provoke, we can't confront, like, we're going to ground you guys to your rooms, like, let's keep a lid on this." And they complain it's not fair, blah 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 blah. Turns out Adrienne is psychically influencing all of this. The human kids' parents arrive, and there's an all-out riot, and Adrienne sets bombs all over the school, and Sean and most of the students they're kind of all split up, and um, Sean's trying to defuse bombs, and Sync's like, "I can do it too," and can't get to the last one in time, so lays down on it to prevent collateral damage and is killed.
Oh shit.
And that's how Sync died.
Wow.
Yeah. Um, Emma shoots Adrienne dead with a gun. She just straight up pulls a gun and shoots her. And yeah,
You'd think she would have just like shut her brain down, shut her brain off.
I think it's like the whole like family members, mutant powers not working on each other thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, brutal. And it's done off panel, but I think it's more out of like avoiding gore than to imply that Adrienne is still alive. Also, because I don't think she has reappeared in a comic sense.
Yeah, they haven't brought her back either on Krakoa.
Yeah,
It's rude.
right. Seriously. Or Cordelia. We've got 2 out of 4 Frosts operating right now. Actually, I don't know what's up with Cordelia, but anyway, by this point the school's basically gone, like destroyed. And Sean says it's time to get serious about your training. Let's get you out into the world, like training you to do real missions and all of that. So that gets us to the the post 6-month gap status quo that we were introduced in the last arc. Oh, and this arc is called "Come On, Die Young," which fitting, I suppose. I know.
Mm-hmm.
And then so that's Generation X. X-Man, also issues 67 through 70. It's called Infinities of Evil, the arc. And this is kind of the one where Warren Ellis and his co-writers are taking the most liberties because they had the least to work from.
What,
So
you're saying there's not anything you can pull from X-Men's history to really lean
as
into
a
this?
literal baby? Yeah. Yeah. So they just kind of like completely overwrote the entire thing, and now it's like a pretty straightforward like sci-fi / superpower story dealing with alternate realities. And in the last story arc, so it introduced the concept, which is not reflected in the Marvel cosmology anywhere else, but it's perfectly fine by me. Just more emphasizes the point that this is completely outside of anything that's going on in Marvel, right? We're just completely sidelining Nate Gray here.
Mm-hmm.
And so we introduced this concept that alternate dimensions don't just have like a they're not just parallel in terms of like what could have happened given similar circumstances on other Earths, but it's what they describe as like a double helix structure, and it goes up and down in a spiral. And so you have in the first arc, we are introduced to this character who was from one of the lower realities that was not meant to sustain life, and comes up to 616 to have its revenge on this mutant hive mind who uh, basically kidnapped a generation of the young from that reality. Sorry, alarm's going off. It's my cat's dinner time.
It's Din Din. 610.
Rachel's got it. For everybody listening out there, Rachel's taking care of it. Don't worry. Uh,
We're not
cat's getting
starving your
fed.
cat for the name of the
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
podcast.
Right. Yeah. Everybody say hi to Bart. So yeah. Backing up here. This will all get edited out. Hopefully, can never trust
Nips.
Nipuna. Um. So yeah. There was this evil hive mind of, or they weren't really presented as evil, just like in like the classic mustache twirling way. They're just like introduced in self-interested. They're a mutant hive mind of explorers who kidnap an entire generation of the young of this down spiral alternate Earth, and basically to make money. And it's probably going to lead to the extinction of the species on that reality, and they don't care. And so Nate Gray takes the hive mind to that lower reality for them to have their own justice on them however they see fit. So that is the status quo after the 6-month gap, right? So now we have to figure out, and Nate Gray's like, he's walking around shirtless. He's calling himself the mutant shaman. He's got this big tattoo, right, of an X on his pectoral. He's got a shaved head. Like, all of these things are extremely different from the concept of Nate Gray that we've gotten used to for the first 66 issues. And so we're like, well, that's a big change. What happened? So this fills it in, right? And we get we've been getting sort of like flashes of other Earths through this. So we're getting, and in the first one, we got a flash of the Earth that we'll spend most of our time in this story. So that's, I won't really go into that yet, but the at the beginning of this, we get a flash of an up spiral Earth, where they call it the Brilliant City, and it's a bunch of everyone there. They float barefoot; their feet don't touch the ground, and there's an impassioned plea between two characters, and one of them like leaps off of the Brilliant City, implying that they're traveling down spiral for something, which is scary, verboten, crazy. They're risking their purity, et cetera, et cetera. So that's something to keep an eye on for future arcs, but it is not going to come up again here. So we're flashing back to sort of the status quo of Nate Gray just kind of like wandering the Earth, sulking. His favorite activity, and he's asleep, and he has a dream that he has destroyed Quito, the city of Quito, Ecuador, and he wakes up in Buenos Aires, and he's naked in bed, and he's like, Maddie, I had a dream, and she walks in, and like I'm not very well familiar with these terms, but like a teddy or a negligee or some sort of like, underwear type thing that she's wearing. So I don't know how strongly it's implied that they're boning. Probably fairly strongly.
Yeah.
It's weird because she's kind of his mom. And not like really, but kind of. She's the clone of his, maternal gene donor.
Oh.
Right.
So...
except she's also a psychic manifestation of, that clone that he created whole cloth when he entered into reality. But it turns out she's not even that either. Sorry, you've got a face. We want to unpack some things before
Well,
I barrel
because
forward here.
because he was test tube created in AOA.
In Age of Apocalypse, yes. From
And
the genes of Cyclops and Jean Grey.
and Jean.
And Malin Pryor is a clone of Jean Grey.
Right.
Yeah.
But she's not involved in this. In his creation. There's no Madeline Pryor in Age of Apocalypse.
Correct.
Right. And then he is one of the 4 characters that jumped from AOA to 616.
Correct.
And then so Maddie,
so when as soon as he like booped up on 616, one of the first things he did is he subconsciously connected with the psychic ghost of Madeline Pryor and created a new Madeline Pryor, essentially. And she's been his ally for the entire run. Right? She killed Threnody.
Right.
She did.
Yeah.
Or not ally necessarily, but she's been around. She's been involved.
Mm-hmm.
And, very manipulative and blah, 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 blah. Well, so it turns out, it turns out that Nate Gray did, he's convinced that he actually destroyed Quito, that this wasn't just a dream. Turns out that's correct. He was being manipulated by Maddie. She has control of his powers, essentially.
Okay.
Second, it turns out that that this isn't the Maddie that he created. That Maddie from somewhere else in the multiverse usurped, came in, replaced the Maddie that he created at some point sometime back, and has been influencing him to do crazy things.
She secret invasioned him.
It also turns out that it's not a Maddie at all. It's that this isn't the Maddie that that they thought. I'm gonna get to that in a sec.
Okay.
So they get so Maddie's like, quote unquote, Maddie's like, hey, so I'm not the Maddie that you created. I'm from another alternate reality. I replaced her some time back. I've been manipulating you, and it's time to take you to my home reality, which is Earth 998. And she is basically, she's the queen of the British Empire, which is, it controls the entire world except for Asia. And they're in a forever war with Asia, but starting to turn the tides, blah 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 blah. She's got this bodyguard named Mr. Scratch, who's like bald with a giant scar running down his face, and we later learned that he was basically he says at one point, a Canadian assassin, so Wolverine, obviously, stabbed my brain, and I exist in a state of unrelenting rage, and I no longer understand pity. And his mutant power is that he's immune to mutant powers. Warren, okay, we're gonna get some really cheeky mutant powers here. Just brace yourself, because the one in X-Force is even weirder. We're just
work on so many levels.
we're gonna let this go for a sec.
Sure.
But he's got this sort of like calm psychopath thing going, which is unnerving and blah 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 blah. He's the bodyguard to this Maddie on this Earth 998, and apparently she's been farming Nate Greys from all over the multiverse to find the right one for blah 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 blah, right? And she delivers lines like, a Nate Grey does not create, a Nate Grey destroys. And she has just like full control over his powers. She uses she just like accesses his powers to kill a spy that's brought in front of her, etc.
Wow.
Yeah. So he escapes the palace, which is like three hallways 3 kilometers long, like gigantic sort of place, right?
Okay.
He goes out, he's psychically drawn somewhere, he can't, just kind of like a beacon, and he goes to it. He meets another Nate Grey. It's the Nate Grey from this reality that he's been brought to. And so this Nate Grey has the shaved head, has the chest tattoo, all of the things from the appearance of Nate Grey in, the after the time jump.
Uh-huh.
And so we learned some of these things, like the spiral of alternate Earths, right? They say it's a double helix. It's the shape of life itself. What could the code mean, and what unimaginable being could we be a part of? So I kind of like the idea that entire Earths, entire realities are just like
The DNA
specific,
of eternity.
yeah, specific genomes within the DNA strand of a much larger something.
Yeah,
It's
that would have been interesting.
it's an interesting concept. You probably can't do much with it, but it's a cool one to just bring up and poke at and be like, get really stoned and think about.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the other Nate Grey is like, so I'm insane, but I put my madness to like, I'm broken as a Nate Grey. Like, they bring a lot here. They're all defective or fucked up in some way. I was the first, and I'm insane. It doesn't work for me. But I put my madness to work as a shaman. He defines this as like, a shaman is supposed to stay apart from the tribe, risk ourselves to create balance for everybody else. And he means a literal shaman to a literal like village that he lives nearby.
Mm-hmm.
And he brings our Nate Grey, or AOA Nate Grey, or whatever, brings him to Forge, that reality's Forge, who's been assassinated by Maddie, and he's dead, and he's shackled up. But they can apparently use telepathy to like jumble the neurons, kickstart them moving again, and then use telepathy to like get the jaw and tongue moving enough so that he can talk. And so they talk.
Oh, just like a meat puppet.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Great punk band, by the way. But anyway, they're speaking to Dead Forge, and they're like, so what's your name? No, I'm just kidding. They don't say that.
Oh, I thought you were gonna jump into being like, well, I'm a shaman, or just
So this is the part that's interesting to me that's never explored in this, which is a huge bummer. But like, Forge was a shaman, right? He
Yeah.
was, and Forge in AOA was Nate Grey's father figure, basically raised him in that theater troupe. And now Nate Grey is a shaman, and they never quite go back to connect the dots and be like, I know.
It's one, and it's like, I don't know. Is that like a lack of research or like understanding, or is that just like, oh, we don't need it?
I don't know. So Warren Ellis just openly despises superhero comics at this point. Like, so this is actually a really fascinating point in his career, right? Because he did Excalibur at Marvel. It was one of his first American one of his first jobs in American comics. And he was kind of writing it not much like a traditional superhero comic. Like it was much deeper into like story arcs and structure and kind of like interested in doing like a more like prestige TV in the way it builds up to something than like these long dangling plot threads of like Claremont-esque Marvel.
Mm.
Um and so the fans hated it. He got the boot, you know. He lasted a good 30 issues, something like that, but he got the boot and just endlessly jerked around to be part of crossover after crossover, etc. So it was kind of like, all right. um but he had I read interviews with him and he's like, I had to do so much research to like he didn't read superhero comics at all growing up. That wasn't what he
Mhm.
was interested in. He just like he loves comics. He, you know, is a writer. He was taking jobs, writing jobs in comics, and you know, the places that largely were hiring people to write comics were superhero comics. And so he's like, all right, I'm going to learn this genre and I'm going to learn it inside and out. And so after he leaves Marvel, he goes to Wildstorm and he does Planetary and he does Stormwatch and
Ugh.
turns it into the Authority and just like completely upends superhero. Like that is like
Yeah.
the when people talk about like what are the landmark books that like changed superhero comics in like the 2000s, it's like the Authority and like, you know, Brian Michael Bendis. Like those are like the most influential. Like Warren Ellis and Brian Michael Bendis are like the most influential creators in mainstream comics in this time period.
Mhm.
And so he's done this, right? And it's like a huge success, like takes the industry by storm. Like everyone's like, oh my god, the fucking Authority, right? and and now Marvel wants it back after just shit canning him. uh and they're like, we'll give you a third of the entire X-Men line, like go nuts, you don't even have to write it, you're co-writing, just be the creative lead on this, like be one third of head of X. And and I think his disdain for superhero comics is definitely still there.
Mm.
um and I don't, but like, so he's done all of the research. It may have been at some point like, yes, X-Man, Shaman, Forge, this makes sense, but it just never quite like went through. I could see
Right.
that being a thing. I could see him having done the research, but I could also see him just not caring enough about.
Yeah, that checks out. That checks out.
Yeah. So anyway,
I wonder. So,
um yeah.
taking advantage of the fact that we're on a tangent.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
I wonder how many Nate Grays there are compared to how many Nathan Summerses there are.
It's a great point because it's a real,
They're the
and this
same
is not some
character
kind of, yeah,
conceptually,
conceptually. And
right? Because
it's
like we don't have a 616 Nate Gray.
right. And yeah, what are the this like is does every Nate Gray come from an Age of Apocalypse like reality, or is this, or there are other circumstances that are responsible for the creation of other Nate Grays? That never really comes up here, which is
Okay.
fine because Nate Gray is a terrible character.
Yeah, it's just it while you're
and
explaining
yeah, and
this
so
concept.
we're mostly just going way more generic sci-fi here than like
Yeah,
anything that's particularly like crucial to Nate Gray.
right.
Um and
Just made me
so
think.
yeah, totally. So we get some backstory on this Earth 998. Turns out that Queen Maddie ruled the British Empire. at the end of the 19th century. So we're going like Victorian, like basically, yeah.
The
And then
only
she
reason, the
died.
only way we can get Madeline to wear more than a bikini is if she's
Yeah.
set in the Victorian era.
Fuck, it's true. Um, so yeah, so she dies, and she's like, responsible for this gigantic increase. She's like the greatest emperor in the history of the British Empire, and responsible for such a grandiose you know expansion. And then the empire, and then after her death, the empire fractures, and there are all these rumors of like, well, she's going to rise again, she's going to be reborn, she's coming back. And eventually she does, but it turns out that that's not actually Maddie reborn, but somebody from another world. And it's also not even a Maddie from another world, it's a Jean Grey.
What is? Okay. All right. All right. All right. All right. All right.
And they're delivering lines like, a Jean Grey is rapacious hunger without limit, and desire, and fire, and all this stuff. So like, that's kind of interesting. We're talking full Dark Phoenix shit here, right?
Yeah.
So that's cool. It's also, we're just playing with our food here now, which is fine. We're having a good time. And yeah, um so Scratch finally like uh bears down on the two Nate Greys who are just like hanging out together. And because their powers don't work on him, they're and he still wants to like kidnap um our Nate, because he is the more perfect vessel, or has a chance to be, for something become Jean/Maddie's ultimate weapon. And so they, since their powers don't work on each other, they do a switcheroo, and they merge themselves with each other, and swap appearances and some measure of their psyche. And uh so the 998, this reality's Nate Gray, looks like 616, and he's brought to Maddie, and then like, brings the, oh no, it was the wrong one, our powers, the plans have been foiled, blah 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 blah, right? And 616 Nate Gray returns to 616, but now he looks like this alternate reality Nate Gray. So he's got the pectoral tattoo, and thinks he's a shaman, and blah blah blah. And so that's how we get to the status quo. And so yeah, so the all reality Nate Gray destroys Jean, and we're all good.
All right. So we're 2 for 2 on the first story, or I guess the second story post 6 month jump, explaining the 6 month jump.
No, that's what I was saying. All three of these are doing that.
Oh, right.
Yeah. And they're called like Shockwave, as like this is kind of like advertised to be so, like yeah. And notably, actually, it's only these Counter X, the Warren Ellis titles, that ever bother explaining what happened during the 6 month gap. The Claremont Revolution titles never even try. Claremont loves his dangling plot threads. These will dangle forever. We as readers still don't know what happened.
Okay.
It's fine.
Man. Okay, one thing I will say in defense, quote unquote, defense of X-Man,
Yeah.
especially after this story,
Yeah.
He's the catalyst to so many conceptual conversations.
Mm,
Like
okay.
he he's like a Marvel icebreaker. If you can't think of
I
a
would say
conversation to have spawning from X-Man, you don't get comics.
I would say he's more of the iceberg. Like he's gonna sink your fucking ship.
But like it's just there's so much like not great about him and his origin, but like
Yeah.
the way his stories and his character connects to core essential characters
Yeah.
in Marvel, not even just 616 but just Marvel in general. Just makes it really interesting, and like
Yeah.
how you can talk about what Nate does or goes through.
Totally.
It's very
All right.
unique.
X-Force, shall I bring it home?
Bring it home.
Okay. X-Force 106 through 109, titled Murder Ballads. And so at the end, this is actually more of like back and forth in terms of what happened during the 6 month gap. Like we get some
Mm.
flashbacks, but it's also largely set after the 6 month gap. And so the status quo that we got was that the X Force team is working with Pete Wisdom, and that they've kind of for a long time thought like we're sort of the proactive wing of the X-Men dream. We're going out to stop threats before they uh become apparent, and that we're going to sort of like work on the margins of things, and kind of that's mostly been ignored because it was largely just a way to have them be like the X-Men, except more 90s extreme, right? And full Rob Liefeld effect, et cetera, et
Mm-hmm.
cetera. um but that technically was the original idea of what X-Force was supposed to be. And so Warren's like, oh, let's have them do that. And what does this mean? This means kind of like working in sort of the underbelly spycraft, black ops sort of world. Not that they're necessarily black ops themselves. They're not like a kill squad or anything, but
Yeah.
they're living in the intelligence community and in the sort of like secret world that most people don't know about, and going about their business trying to take care of threats proactively.
Okay.
And so at the end, so they like diffused this, or dealt with this um uh thing that like mutated half of San Francisco, and um basically turned half of San Francisco into monsters that wanted to murder regular humans just to simulate an all-out race war between mutants and humans. Um, that was like forgotten and buried from Cold War times or whatever, right?
Okay.
So that was their first mission, and um, at the end of it, Pete Wisdom, their new mentor, was killed. And so this story arc, we open on Pete's funeral, and they're pissed off that like all the other X folks didn't show up to his funeral. Like not even Kitty Pryde, who was, an
His child
they were an
bride.
item. Yeah. Yeah, the less mention of that the better. But yeah, his ex-girlfriend, and just everyone who, when he was a member of Excalibur, his former teammates, none of them show up to the funeral, and they're like, well, you know fuck all these heroes. But also, I guess it goes to show that like when you live in this sort of underworld you don't really like, you are cutting yourself off from the world. You will not be remembered. You will not be known, and you will live a lonely life and die a lonely death. And this is kind of the life that we're all setting ourselves up for. And at the funeral, who does show up, who they do meet, is Pete's sister, Romany Wisdom. And she kind of fades to the background for most of this, but she'll show up at the end. And we start to get sort of like flashbacks, views into the 6-month gap. So after the power shut off from the high evolutionary, that whole thing,
Mm-hmm.
um, and like it was very dangerous. Cannonball was flying over the bay and almost died, et cetera, et cetera. So Domino is working them out, and she's like, you have to be more capable without your powers. You rely on them too much. And Sam and Jesse were like, well, we agree, and that's why we contacted Pete Wisdom in order to like be basically like feed us missions and to help us be really proactive and start making a difference. And Domino's like, this isn't a path you want to go down. Like, I like step back now. And so she drops out. So does Danny Moonstar. She's like, I don't want to be a part of this. Um, because mostly what X-Force has been for the last, you know, lengthy run, last 40 issues or so, had been a young adult story and not a teen story like Generation X was sort of like at school, but like young, early 20s, finding their way in the world as their own people, et cetera, et cetera. And it was a really
Mm-hmm.
good run, but um, Danny doesn't really fit that well, doesn't fit into this. So she's out of the team. Domino's out of the team. And back to the present, we learned. So Domino shows up to the team after the funeral also. And she tells them she had this mercenary job go wrong. She's been marked for death by this guy named Marcus Tsung, who, you're ready for our second ridiculous mutant power of the day. He has the mutant gene for murder. He can just look at you, and it's like and you can either die from just him looking at you, or he can like create uh like air bullets, essentially, just like uh explosive, like force um out of nothing, that just like, so he like blew a hole in Domino's spine, essentially, left her for dead.
Jeez.
But then
Okay.
Yeah, but then she didn't die. She, a little while later, she woke back up, uh perfectly fine, perfectly healed, even like all a bunch of like scars from old wound, unrelated old wounds that she'd had been um completely restored. And instead she had this weird um device, like kind of metallic looking, um growing in her like back and shoulder, where she'd been like mutant murder shot by Tongue.
Hmm.
Really weird.
Mm-hmm.
And so it turns out, we kind of learn through the process of it, that the reason that she was marked for death by Tsung and whoever hired him is because of this thing, and that she'd had it before. She doesn't know how long, she doesn't know where it came from, etc. But it um, revived her for some reason, and it is a point of contention, controversy, scariness. We don't know what it is. Uh, and then we kind of go through some more flashbacks during the 6 month gap. Uh, how weird application of so everyone basically got new skills on their level up during the 6 month gap, right?
Okay.
Um, Boom Boom knows how to hack now. She's a hacker.
All right.
Um, uh, Cannonball is like uh a more like he's an assertive and self-assured team leader. And James Proudstar, he can fly, which is very so we go, we get the flashback to the sort of montage sequence where he um Pete Wisdom's like, you can fly, you got to stop holding yourself back, and we're in this sort of danger room thing, and he's like, I can't do it, and he's like, yes you can, and then he does it. um Notably, every single other creator who's ever written James Proudstar since has ignored this completely, but it's also
Well,
very funny.
he flies in Rise and Fall of the Shi'ar Empire.
He does. I don't remember
Yeah, and he says he doesn't like it. Like he's bad at it, and so he doesn't fly often.
Interesting. Huh. It's also kind of funny to me that in X-Force they did the exact same thing with Bobby DaCosta with Sunspot, because in New Mutants his initial powers was only super strength. That's all he had.
Oh,
And they're like, Cable was like, no, 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 you need to learn all the different ways that you can, channel your solar energy, blah blah blah. And so they had him start flying, they had him start shooting, being all shooty with his blasts and all that.
mm-hmm.
So it's
Interesting.
just funny that it's the exact same power set expansion.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Yeah. Mm.
um so um ba, 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 ba. So yeah, they're Domino's got this device in her, and they're like, what is it? And they're like, it's the thing that wiped out the dinosaurs. uh they go to meet these contacts of Wisdoms. They are called counterculture techno anarchists, which I'm real into. Their names are Abel, Baker, and Charlie. um they're like, yeah, this thing killed the dinosaurs. And we're like, okay.
Wow.
um
Okay.
yeah. And we have like an introductory scene for Tsung, right, to show what a badass he is, and he's like contracted by the U.S. government, or like brought in by the U.S. government for something, and they're like, he's like, welcome, Mr. Tsung, like it's a pleasure to have you here, and he's like, do these other men who are present, do they also know my name? He's like, yes, of course. And so he just kills all of them. He just kills like an entire like welcoming party of just by looking at them basically. And it's just to show like what a badass he is, right? And so
All right.
anyway, eventually they have this big fight, and they win, and very cool, dramatic action scene, et cetera, et cetera. And at the end of it, they've got bigger problems with Domino and this device. Domino gets taken over by this device, starts to go crazy, and then it's not fully resolved, and they have sort of a debrief with Romany, Wisdom, Pete's sister, and she's like, yeah, this is like, I need to tell you about Pete. Pete was a jerk. Like, not like he was a bad guy, but like he was fucked up in the head. He was crazy. He like experienced a certain amount of anti-mutant prejudice, and it pushed him over the edge, and he doesn't have it anymore, basically. Um oh, sorry, it was Romany who uh basically uh killed Marcus Tsung. She saved the team. You know, they were fighting him to a standstill, and then she had snipers posted up and shot him and killed him. Um, and yeah, so Domino loses it, and they kind of like tase her, knock her out, and then they have a meeting with Romany, and she's like, "Listen, get a life while you still can before you bury another friend or they bury you." And that is the cliffhanger for, or
Oh,
that's so the thing with Domino isn't fully resolved, and Romany's like, "You don't want to live this life, get out."
you're in over your head.
Exactly. So that's where we are with X-Force. All of these titles, I will note, are nearing cancellation. So we've got like one more arc of each of them left.
Damn.
Yeah.
And then how far away are we from New X-Men? New X-Men's
Not
2001.
yeah. So actually, I think we're in 2001. I think we're quite close.
Mm.
I'll look it up for you, and I'll let you know. I'm also might want to take a little bit of a break or something from, you know, I don't know. We'll talk offline. We'll figure out reading schedule for when that pops up. I'll let you know how far out I am. I haven't updated my reading spreadsheet in a little bit
Okay.
because we've been doing only Krakoa.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm trying to find where. Here we go. I was looking at the Destiny of X reading thing. Oh, there's a lot.
Yeah, so
Um,
so we've been recommended to read um the first, I think, 4 issues each of Immortal X-Men and X-Men Red before we dive into AAXE.
mm-hmm. Um,
Um
there are
I don't know when you want to do that.
there's 20 entries. Well, there's 30 entries, but we've read X Lives and X Deaths.
Yeah, so do you want to do all of that, or do you just want to read Immortal and X-Men Red?
I mean, there's a part of me that just wants to read all of it. Because
I mean, we're
eventually
gonna read all
I
we're
am going to
gonna
read
read
all
all
of
of
it.
it sooner or later.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So, okay. It boils down to Sabretooth 1 through 5, which we've read half of. There's X-Force 27 through 29, X-Force Annual, Wolverine 20 through 23, New Mutants 25 through 28, X-Men 10 through 12, Immortal X-Men 1 through 4, Legion of X 1 through 5, Red 1 through 4, Giant X-Men Thunderbird number 1, Knights of X 1 through 5, Marauders Annual and 1 through 5. Oh, New
I've
Mutants
already read
25
Annual.
through 29. And then Hellfire Gala number 1. Is there not a number 2? Interesting. So,
It's what they do for one shots. They just say number one.
no, but I thought that Hellfire Gala would have been more than one issue. Because it's got a whole book. So like, what else is in that book? Anyway,
Yeah.
okay. I think I feel like this is. We could probably do this in 2 weeks. Because when we're doing an X episode, we read like 5 or 6 titles.
Yeah. Do you wanna follow the read order that they have in
Probably
down below? These aren't official collected editions, but
right.
like we could do Destiny of X Volume 1, Volume 2, etc., and just keep going like we have been.
Oh. Yeah, look at this.
So
Publication
those are
date
just
December.
they're well, no. Those are that's December of last year, and
I
that's
know.
the French publication date.
Yeah.
They have not even been solicited in English yet. So these read
So
orders,
dumb.
these issue lists are unofficial as far as we're concerned, but they're the
Right.
closest thing we have. So we can follow it. And we'll probably,
Yeah.
if we go through volume 6
Yeah, that's
or
what it looks
7,
like.
yeah, through 7 we'll be
6,
on the right path.
7. Yeah, 7 would get us, I guess, ready. Well, because Legion of X. Mm, Legion of X 1 through 5. Oh, man, so that'd be Destiny 8?
I mean, again, those don't cross. I'm more worried about what's crossing over with AXE.
Yeah.
And the first one that crosses over with AXE in these trades is volume 8.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, dude. That's a lot of that's a lot of what is that? That's
Yeah,
3
it's
episodes?
7. Yeah, so it's either 3 episodes before we even get to AXE, or we just do the little bite-size intro.
Uh,
It's like, and that would be one episode basically.
I know. But
Up to you. Up to you.
yeah. So AXE is next on my pile.
Mm-hmm.
So I I'm what do you where are you at desire wise for getting into Destiny?
Sure. I mean, I'm I'm happy either way. I will read it no matter what. It's just a matter of, and or do we do this? Basically, I think the decision is, do we read Destiny in this sort of like, um, Destiny Volume 1, Destiny Volume 2 as we
Mm-hmm.
have been, or do we basically, going
Okay.
forward, do we read Krakoa X in like volume, in their individual title volumes, like you would any other comic?
Um, I think we okay. Dawn, Reign, and Trials has been organized well enough that I feel like going with the Destiny organization is
Okay.
I think works. So
Okay.
Destiny Volume 1 is only 4 issues.
Are you saying we do a 3 for one of these?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that works
I'm
for me.
wondering if yeah, so Destiny 1 is 4 issues. Destiny 2 is 5 issues. And then Destiny 3 is another 5 issues. I feel like we could do 1 through 3 in one go.
Yeah, I'm in for that. You want to do that next week?
Yeah, let's do that.
Cool.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay.
Because, God, dude,
You heard it here first, folks.
Oh man, I want AXE so bad. So like, whatever it
Yeah.
takes to get my knowledge to the point where it's ready for AXE.
Okay.
Let's do that. So let's do Destiny 1 through 3
All right.
for next week.
Stoked.
Okay, man. Oh man.
Okay.
Back to tablet reading for me. It's fine. It's fine. It's not a big deal. Even though what's funny is like actually I feel like most of these the individual books are out, so like I could just like bookmark all of the books, but that's um honestly fuck. I'll figure it out. Anyway, that's
Okay.
my own problem to deal with.
It's your own cross to bear.
Yeah, exactly. So next week, Destiny 1, 2, 3.
Okay,
Let's do that. Oh
let's
man.
do it.
Oh, cool. 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 Man, because
Anything you want to say?
I want
Oh,
Sabretooth.
sorry.
I want to find out what happens with Sabretooth, but that's not for a while.
Yeah, dude.
Jeez. Sabretooth isn't even on this list.
You're right.
Whatever.
Yeah, Sabretooth 4 or 5.
I don't even know where it
I have
is.
no idea. Yeah. And again, these aren't official.
I know.
I have no. Yeah.
Whatever. We're still gonna do
Okay.
Destiny. We're gonna do
We're still gonna
French
do these.
Destiny 1, 2, and 3.
Okay. So this next podcast is going to be in French.
We. I was about to say C, and I was like, that's not right.
Oh man. You're when I was I took a little bit of French in college. I don't remember any of it. But I took Japanese in high school, and my housemate was taking Japanese in college, and I was like got to the exact point where like what I had learned of French had exactly met what I had forgotten in Japanese, and it was like perfectly matched. And so my housemate one day said to me, Ohio Steve, o genki desu ka? And I said, Hai, je suis genki.
That's amazing.
I mixed up not only vocab but also grammar.
That's impressive. Not gonna lie. I definitely the one time I went to TJ when I was like 19.
Yeah.
Went to a strip club, and it was loud, and so I couldn't speak to the performer, and so I pulled out my phone and texted in Spanish, but like two of the words I actually wrote out in Japanese. I don't know if she understood what I was trying to say, but I said yeah.
Wow.
It was one of those in retrospect. I didn't even. Yeah, it was.
Okay.
That's
I'm not
my
going to
only.
press for details. You can talk or not talk about as much as you want here.
That's my only like. Hey, that happened to me too about joining two languages. Example
But
that
in
I
a
could
very
throw in
different
there.
circumstance. The circumstances really crowded out the content here.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm just rambling.
Anyway.
I guess then should we put the is there anything else you want to throw out there?
No.
All right. Well then
Mm-mm.
let's put the outro music like here, and
Works for me.
we'll call it a day. Man, right straight back
Call it a
into
day.
X.
Thank you.
I'm stoked.
Thank you everybody who was hanging out watching this live. I don't know if
Yeah.
there's anything in the chat. I'm purposely been avoiding it. but yeah.
There was a
Hello.
I'm stopping my recording. But there was a
Okay. Also, Nips, feel free to delete all of our scheduling talk. Just knock that right out. We don't need it as part of the final podcast.
yeah.
Thank
There
you.
was a response to
Recording
talking about
stopped.
Adrian's death. That just said Dark Side of Comics. Nice. I like how he really touches that subject. Most people avoid that. I'm like, nah, we keep it real. At Happy's my superpower.
Yeah.
Oh man, that was fun.
That was fun. Thank you
there was,
everybody
like-
who was hanging out and listening.
Mm-hmm. There was a couple of like sound notifications. I was like, huh? But that was easier than I thought it was going to be.
Excellent.
What a surprise that focusing on comic books, I couldn't be distracted by chat. Who knew?
Who knew?
Who knew? All right. Well, that's that. And
Been a pleasure, man.
yeah, thanks again for another fun episode.
Yeah, I'll close this out and I'll let you close up your stream separately if you'd like. But
Oh yeah, I guess I
take
should do
care,
that.
friends and family, and I'll see you another time.
Okay, thanks.
Right
Bye.
on, man. Bye.
All right. Well, oh gosh, I wonder if I can just like. So, OBS doesn't know where my camera is because it was being taken over by Zoom. So that's why my face is missing down here. But anyway, that's that. That's the pod, and that's how our recordings go. And we'll be back tonight in a couple hours for Guardians for reading comics. And thanks everyone for being here. I'll see you guys later. Bye.